My name's Michael Leverett. I'm the director here at Disability Connections. And this is Andrina Patton. She's the assistant director here. And all DC staff, wiggle, yeah, just wave, there you go. And Tina's back there, Leslie, Edwin. Yasmin's running around here somewhere, probably giving somebody coffee. But we want to welcome y'all, and we've got a lot in store today that I think will be really great. A lot of things that will hopefully, little nuggets and things that you can grab and actually implement in your own life to help you either manage your attendant care, whether it be a spouse, volunteer, or even paid attendant care, as well as we're going to work on some strategies on becoming even a better caregiver. So we'll do that in the afternoon. But let me just tell you first about Disability Connections. We are a Center for Independent Living. Our incorporated name is, we're the Middle Georgia Center for Independent Living. And we do business as Disability Connections. We serve a 12-county area with our independent living services, and we also do technology, and we serve almost any part of the state, but mainly the southwest part of the state for technology. What's unique about a Center for Independent Living, if you've never heard, our board of directors is made up of a majority of people with disabilities. That's who govern this organization. We also have a majority of people with disabilities running this organization. So it makes us unique and different, and I can tell you that that philosophy, that approach to the way centers for independent living are structured is unique and different and very powerful in the way we do things and how we work with individuals to empower them to transition out of situations to be more independent or have more identity or more dignity. Just real quick, our services are, we do information and resource referral, and you probably have already experienced that. When you just call us, we'll try to locate or find or refer different resources and information for you to be able to enhance your life in many ways. So that's a huge service, a big aspect of what we do. Another thing that we do, and you usually don't know that we're doing it, but it's called peer support. The services that we deliver, and when you meet with somebody and trying to work through challenges, you work with a person with a disability, somebody who's been there, been through it, and they have life experiences that they share with you. And they kind of guide you through our services, and that's peer support. We also do independent living skills training, and that can be from, like what we're doing here today, is learning how to manage your attendant care, to managing a budget, learning how to ride the bus for the very first time, and it could be something a little bit more disability specific, learning how to handle a stove or something like that if you're blind or visually impaired. A lot of great things like that. Another great thing that we do is advocacy. And there's two types of advocacy that we do. And we kind of do it through our peer support, is we help you become more of a better self-advocate. Sometimes people struggle with calling and getting resources or needs in their life, and sometimes through our peer support, but also some of our skills of training you how to advocate for yourself, make that phone call. Sometimes it's just a matter of having a conversation, bouncing things off of us, and knowing some of the things you should expect when you're applying for different services, what you should ask for, what you shouldn't ask for, or how you should ask for it. And another thing we do with advocacy is called systems advocacy. We've done a lot of different things. We've gone and flown and drove to different places in the country, including Washington, D.C. a good bit, when and Diane's a big experienced one on that, is actually working towards more attendant care services in the community. And sometimes we have to kind of shake the tree a little bit to help people know that it is a huge need here, even in our local area. Another thing that we've done is we've advocated for accessible sidewalks and that kind of thing, and we've been able to get sometimes a little bit of movement in that direction. And then sometimes it's a matter of, and this can be a little mixture of self and systems advocacy, is making our stinking mall better, more accessible. One brand new mall, they made mistakes, is fighting for them to be more accessible. Our business that you go to regularly is making it more accessible. Yay, the Dairy Queen on Gray Highway now has a ramp and they've redone their, it's great. So, that kind of thing. So we also do a couple of other things. We do home modifications, building ramps, widening doors, and grab bars. We also do assistive technology, and we have some of the assistive technology back in the back, and a lot of what we have out there today relates to how you can do personal attendant care or activities of daily living more independently. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in working with certain devices that either assist the assistant, and I can tell you personally, my wife, Geraldine, most everybody knows Geraldine. She was a former director here at Disability Connections, and I can tell you that those kind of lifts right there are incredible. She has a rod in her back, and me picking her up and moving her is too painful. So using an electronic lift actually is just nice and easy and steady and guides her. So it makes my caregiving and her managing her care a whole lot easier, and even to the point that my daughter can help her with those devices. And there's devices even on eating. Sometimes you need somebody to prepare the food, but wouldn't you like to be able to eat the food independently? Some people enjoy that independence, being able to do that, or being able to control their environment in their home. Yeah, I could ask the attendant to do that for me, but there's so much more dignity when I can do that for myself. So technology is a big aspect of what we do. So we are extremely glad you're here, and we will have some time for some open discussion, and especially in our divided groups. We're going to separate this afternoon people who need care, and then others who want to learn more about how to be a better caregiver. So I'm going to hand this over to Andrina.
Talk about is really kind of what is the definition of success when you talk about attendant care. When I Googled it last night, the definition was an accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. So I started trying to figure out how is that going to relate to individuals receiving care and caregivers providing care, and realized that an individual that's getting care is going to have a different definition of success, whereas a caregiver is going to be looking at it and have their perspective of what is successful attendant care. An individual may look at it like, oh, my attendant care is successful because the attendant showed up for work, or I got to eat what I wanted for breakfast this morning. Or they may even look at it like, oh, I was able to run errands with my attendant. While the caregiver may look at it like, I accomplished what I set out to do this morning by assisting with ADLs in the individual. Or there was no conflict, everything went smooth. I went in, did my job, and I came out. That could, amount to being successful, attendant care. But in my opinion, I think that the definition of successful attendant care is how you manage it. Sorry. So when you're thinking about management, who's the manager? Any ideas who you think the manager is of attendant care? Just anybody throw it out there.
A caregiver is someone that can help you, but you do what you can, but someone who can't will help you do what you can't do to see the purpose that you needed them for.
Okay. The important thing to think about is there are three managers a lot of times, depending on how you receive your attendant care. The agency may be a manager in some respects. The individual is the manager in some respects, and the caregiver is a manager in some respects. What do I mean by that? Each party manages a different portion of the attendant care, whatever it is. The important thing to remember is that there are questions that you need to answer. Each person in that party, whether it's an agency or it is the caregiver or the individual, you have to ask questions of, what are the responsibilities of each party? Who's responsible for which part of providing the care, making sure people are getting out there, and making sure the person is getting the quality care that they need? Are there clear lines of communication? That's probably the key in managing attendant care. Without communication, what happens? Everything falls apart. The clear lines of communication are a must. Without communication, that's when everything starts breaking down, and people that are receiving the care aren't getting the quality care. The caregiver's getting burned out, and the agency's at a loss of what do we do. And we're going to talk a little bit later about the different types of or the different models of attendant care, but I'm kind of right now speaking just traditionally. But another important factor is setting out expectations of each party. What are the expectations of the individual? What do they want? What do they need? What does the caregiver expect? What does the agency expect? And then, of course, always having supports in place for a crisis. I've been doing this for a long time and been talking with consumers for a long time. Whenever a conflict arises, nobody ever wants to take responsibility. The agency's going to blame the attendants, or they're going to blame the, they're going to blame the consumer. Nobody ever takes responsibility. And so when you have a clear line of communication and you open up those expectations and responsibilities, you have them on paper, you revisit them, you look at them, that's where managing comes into place and makes attendant care very successful. So the reason that we thought of the art of managing attendant care and the art of caregiving is because it is truly an art. It's almost a full-time job for every person that's involved. And the important thing is that no matter which party you are, I'm hoping today that we can give you some tools to help you manage any part, being effective caregiver, being an effective consumer, knowing and understanding where each responsibility lies, and hopefully, coming away from this, you will feel that you're able to do that. What we're going to do now is show you a video of some consumers who live independently and use attendant care, but this is them managing a part of their care.
Hi, my name is Andrina Pack. Just like the nonprofit organization Disability Connections, this show is run by people with disabilities. It's about people with disabilities. It's about independent living. Independent living is not a place, it's more of a philosophy. It's about people with disabilities having control over their own lives and having all the information needed to make their own choices. Helen Sams is one person who recently received additional access to her home through Disability Connections.
I just moved here about 3 years ago.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Were you using the wheelchair when you moved into this house?
I had it, but I couldn't use it that much. I had to use it in the house. Right. I couldn't, unless someone bring it outside for me, and then I can use it outside.
So you were still able to walk up the stairs if you needed to get in?
Yeah, but it would, with assistance.
Right. Would someone have to carry your wheelchair up in the house for you?
Right.
And then bring the wheelchair back out if you needed
Exactly.
And then help you down the stairs?
Right.
And you mentioned earlier about Disability Connections, that you've met some great people there. Can you tell me how Disability Connections has helped you?
Yes, I can. I met a wonderful woman by the name of Brooke. And I began to tell her my needs. And she came out and visited me. And she looked and she saw where I did need some changes around here. I needed a ramp, and I needed grab bars in the bathroom. I needed the door to be wide, because at first I couldn't get my wheelchair through the bathroom. I would have to struggle to get in the bathroom just to get in the bathroom door.
Just to brush your teeth.
That's
or
right. Just to
wash
do
your
it.
hands.
Right. And since the modification been done, at least I can get in my bathroom. I can't turn around, but I can get in.
Right.
But the bathroom is kind of small, but still I can get in, and that is such a help to me, to be able to go in sometime and just to wash my hand, brush my teeth, whatever I want to do, just go in there.
Take your hair out.
Right, whatever, yeah.
Doing that on your own without having to have someone help you do that?
That's right, that's true.
I see right now you're on the end of your ramp. Can you tell
Yeah.
me how much independence that has given you? Just
Right.
having the ramp?
Right, I can come outside and get in my car. I don't have to worry about calling anybody, or unless I need to haul my chair, then I might need someone to put it in the trunk. But I've already make preparation for that if I have to carry my chair. But
Right.
a lot of times I can just get in my car and go what I need to go and come on back, and go in my house, and I don't have to bother anybody. You know, I know people are willing to help. A lot of times, if you can just do it on your own, you won't have to. That's your time. You can go ahead and do it, and you won't have to wait because you're dealing with someone else in their time.
And their schedule.
That's true. You have to work it in. But
So having the ramp has allowed you to come in and out of your house when you want to come in and out of your
that's
house.
right. That is correct. Yeah. If I didn't get out there, people wouldn't know I even exist. But when they see me and they see me in my wheelchair or getting around and trying to do on my own, that I'm making myself present and making people aware that we are independent people, and we human and just like they are. Brooke, I'd like to say thank you very much for working so hard to help me get the ramp, the modifications that I need for my house, the ramp, the bathtub grab bars, and I'm so thankful that you did that, and thank you very much for being there for me. Anytime I talk to you, it's always been very, very positive, and thank you very much for working so hard.
What if we were just stuck inside the house? No, you had to have people to come and get you out, but now I can get out of the house and become one of us in the community, and that makes me so happy that you can get out and do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and how you want to do it. That's what makes me happier.
Thank you, Brooke.
My name is Mary Hicks. I have been out of the nursing home for almost 6 years, and it's been very blissful. I was in a nursing home for 27 years because my mother had suffered a stroke 12 days before my 22nd birthday. And there was no one to care for me, and of course she had to have care, so the nursing home was the only place I had to go. I had been told that I would never be able to live out on my own because of my physical condition. I could never live on my own, and it depressed me. I got very depressed. I even got to the point that I prayed to die because I was so miserable, because my life was so controlled by the nursing home.
Mary applied for the Independent Care Waiver Program, which is a Medicaid-funded attendant care service program that assists people with disabilities with activities of daily living, like bathing or dressing or food preparation. This program is funded by the Department of Community Health Medicaid.
And so I signed for about 4 years, and every time I reapplied, they denied me for one reason or another. And eventually I just kept working. I never gave up. I had it within me to succeed. I I was intending to succeed. My goal was to succeed because I was told I could not do it. I could not succeed, and when I'm told I can't, it makes me more determined that I will succeed. So after 4 years of a verbal fight with the legislature and with the nursing home, I finally got out, and I lived with someone for 1.5 years. It was very undesirable, and I've been in this beautiful apartment complex almost 4 years.
Many people are amazed that a person with my disability can drive. The modifications that you have seen in my van are a type of assistive technology. So what is assistive technology? Well, several years ago, assistive wasn't even in the dictionary, nor would spell check pick it up on your computer. Now, the word is much more recognized and more used. Assistive technology is defined as something designed or intended to assist a person with a disability. The modifications in this van were designed and engineered to assist me to drive. Without this, I would be dependent on others for transportation. In this show, you will learn other ways people with disabilities use assistive technology as a tool for independence. Meet Lindell Hill. Due to an injury, Lindell is paralyzed from the neck down. He can move his head and neck only. He utilizes attendant services and assistive technology to live independently in his own apartment. The technology he uses allows him to stay by himself for about 14 hours a day. By sipping or blowing into his environmental control device, he controls nearly everything in his apartment. Whether to go out and visit a friend, get a breath of fresh air, or exit the apartment in an emergency, Lindell can open his door with his environmental control device and door opener.
Having access to operate my radio, I didn't never know I would have equipment to operate if my wheelchair. But this man Mike have really made me happy. I enjoy him showing me what I can do in society and be a quadriplegic and have all this in my own home with no one around. Find me happiness. I am never lonely. And give me something to do. Turn on the radio.
Mute. Mode. F. Power. Power. Increase.
Turn on the TV.
Power.
Amazing. I turn on my TV. Can change the station, can turn the TV to whatever I like.
Up. Up. Up.
And even if someone call me, answer the phone.
Is off.
Hello.
Hey, Liddell.
Hey. Fan.
1, 2. Is on.
I came open the door.
Is off. Is on.
Man, this is amazing. I think they're good to know disability and make what he can do for me. Thank you.
Meet Marjorie Wood and Martha Tomlin. These two ladies have gained much independence in utilizing low-tech and high-tech devices. Both have visual impairments, a total vision loss, which requires her to utilize a screen reader program called JAWS.
I had never used a computer. My son had asked me some time ago, didn't I want to get a computer? I said, no, I don't need one. Well, I do need one now. And it's a computer that has JAWS. And every time I hit a key, it tells me what the key is.
I have everything in the house marked with orange and red and black dots, including my new stove.
I use Velcro and then the little dots. And I can tell where I have to find my place. The F and J with the dots, but then I know what the Velcro is on. So, and rubber bands. My husband has told several people we have rubber bands and Velcro on nearly everything in the house.
For seeing, I have a CCTV, which I really enjoy, because I have to do all of my reading and all of my writing with that. This is my new stove. I'm learning to use it. You might can see that I have all sorts of little markings on it. This black Velcro that I put here says that that's the back rear burners. This is the light. This is for the oven. And in the kitchen I have a smaller version of a CCTV called a Prisma. And I can read the headlines in the paper. I can read the labels on the cans, and I can read recipes. This is something I use to take to church with me. And sometimes if you go shopping, it is called a Quick Look. And it actually magnifies more than, bigger than a handheld magnifier, which I have a handheld magnifier in every room too. I can read the church bulletin when going along at church by using that. Got this from the people, the hearing impaired people.
Gotcha.
That I learned about through Disability Connections. And it has a big button, but it also talks to me when I dial a number, 4, 5. And that keeps me from hitting a lot of wrong numbers. You can also increase the volume. If you're losing your hearing, you can use that too.
We would like to invite you to be a part of our organization, Disability Connections. If you need assistance with resources, attaining more skills or technology to be more independent, or if you need accessibility in your own home, or if you'd like to support our organization or get involved in our advocacy opportunities, please give us a call at 1-800-743-2117 or locally at 478-741-1425, or drop us an email at info@disabilityconnections.com.
A lot of the reason that I like to show that video is because when you think of managing attendant care, it's not always the physical person that's there providing care. You can see in that video how a ramp, someone having a ramp, someone living in their own home or controlling their environment with assistive technology, being able to get in and out of the door on their own, answering the phone on their own. That technology is providing assistance to the individual, empowering them to be independent, but also if a person only gets a certain amount of hours a day, that technology can come in
and assist that person. So it's really about managing care all around, just making sure that their needs are being met, whether it's by the physical attendant or assistive technology. So a big portion of the people that you saw had a goal. And that's the most important thing, is what is the goal? And I always think of Mary. Mary's goal was always to get out of the nursing home and live in the community. It took a very long time for her to do that, but that was her ultimate goal. And when you have a goal and you have something to work towards, no matter what happens, you're going to do everything in your power to figure out how to accomplish that goal. If you're driven, you can't do it alone. You have to kind of figure out how that's going to happen. But the people up here did that, not alone, but with a group of people. And they do receive attendant care. That people come in and help them, but they're able to manage that and maintain that in their own home by making sure there are clear lines of communication. There's expectations of what they expect, what the caregiver expects. So I kind of want to talk about, we're going to get a little interactive, so I hope everybody just try to answer the questions. I'm going to speak to the individuals who receive attendant care, and this could be informal. This could be by your parents, non-paid, family members, a neighbor, friends, just anybody. What is important to people who receive attendant care? Those of you that just shout out some words. Carl.
Then help me out and clean up and do everything I want with what I need clean. They help me with.
So it's important to you that they're there to help you clean up
Yeah.
and get what you need done.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What else is important to people? Trust, Octavius, is that what? Good.
To be there when you, especially when you need them, like if you at home alone and you have an accident and you could sit like that, if you couldn't call them and say, hey, could you stop by at your convenience and help me that, I have had an accident, and just know they're there and they will come no matter. My age, I've had Frida from the beginning, but Valerie too has got out of their bed at 3 o'clock in the morning just to come get me up off the floor.
So just being dependable,
So-
flexible, and there for you.
So it's very important that they be there when you need them most.
Right. Other thoughts?
They're there to help you with cleaning, how to clean your room and clean your area in the house, and to fix your meals.
So just helping you in your house, helping you prepare meals. Did I miss something?
Just to clean your room.
Okay, clean up your room.
Yes.
Good, good. Any other thoughts of what's important? Right, to be treated like everybody else. That's good. Go ahead, Carl.
I agree. I got one more question. Like they help me, like when I get sick, like I said, they help me to then they help. I call ambulance and they come get me, and I call them. I tell them that where I'm at, they would not. They're coming up that same time. By the time I say I'm gonna stay there and make sure I'm all right.
Just checking on you. Making sure everything's good. So what we have up here is having the needs met, cleaning meal room, preparing meals and cleaning the room, trust, dependability, flexibility, treated like everyone else, and just being checked on. Ultimately, this is kind of the process of goal setting, finding out what the individual
what's really important to them. And once you set that goal, then what starts needing is the expectations of those goals. What do you expect, or what do you need out of an attendant? And that's kind of where these answers start that process. So my question next is for the caregivers. What is important to the caregiver? What, as you're coming into this, what's important for you as a caregiver when providing care to a consumer?
Having patience with each other.
Okay, patience.
Basically getting to know the person that you are going to support.
Mm-hmm.
Really knowing what their likes are, what their dislikes are. Are they introverted type people, extroverted type people, getting them out, just getting to know the person that you're going to work with.
Good, yeah, getting to know the person. April, would you like to share what's important about providing care to me?
Yeah, girl.
I'm kidding.
Just like she said, getting to know who you're going to be working for and gaining trust in each other, just communication and just seeing what you like and what I like, getting to know each other.
And the reason I ask these questions is because it is very important that you know what you expect out of the other person. I've seen it many times, and I've been receiving attendant care for the last, I think, 97. I'm not good at math, and especially today I'm very clouded. So from 97 until now, I've been receiving attendant care, and I've learned a lot about people. And one of the biggest things is a clear line of communication. The first thing I tell people when I interview them, I expect you to be very honest with me because I'm going to be very blunt and honest with you. If I don't like what's going on, I'm going to say it. If you don't like what's going on, I need you to say it. Because if you don't, this is a very intimate relationship. You're in the house, you're with family, you're with that person providing so much care. And you want those communication lines open. So knowing what's important to each individual is probably the most important thing, because that starts the dialogue in the relationship. And burnout doesn't happen, or, we're all gonna get mad at each other. We're all gonna get frustrated with each other. But like you said, getting to know each other, you're gonna know when you come in, okay, they're having a bad day, just don't talk to them. My thing is, I can't speak or do anything until I get out of the shower. Don't talk to me, don't ask me what I need, don't say anything to me. I'll talk to you when I get out of the shower. Then I'm okay. But my attendants know that and expect that out of me. And so that's, to me, one of the biggest barriers is people don't communicate. And then it breaks down, and then you run through people, and then you get frustrated. And so what I kind of want to do is hear some experiences. How many people are on attendant care waiver, independent care waiver? Okay. Do you care to share some of your experiences of maybe how long you've been on the waiver and how it has helped you and how you work with your caregiver?
I brought her on with me when I was accepted on ICWP, and we had already been friends for several years since then, so she kind of knew me, but she didn't know about taking care of me until she started working for me full-time on ICWP. So I'm very blunt. I mean, if it comes up, it's gonna come out. So, I try to keep that door open because I want her to tell me if she thinks I'm too harsh when I've asked her to do something for me or whatever. But on ICWP, and I thank the Lord for it, because now I can't walk at all, and my hands is getting where I can't use it. So she prepares things into a way so when I'm at home by myself, like, she pairs me up in trays, the individual little things, and she makes me a meal and puts them in the cup with a cover on it, and into the refrigerator. I take it out of the refrigerator and put it in the microwave, and I don't have any problem from going to the microwave to the table with the food in my hand, as long as I don't have to travel, all over the house trying to find a place to eat. So there's the microwave and there's the table. But you need to know your attendant and how they feel. I want her to tell me if I had said something that maybe hurt her feelings a little bit, and likewise me, because she knows I'm gonna say it. She knows I'm gonna be blunt, very blunt. I don't know no other way to do it, but you got to have a working, caring relationship with your attendants, where they might see something that you don't see a little bit further down the road, and they avoid you from going down that road, such as like last night we went and bought groceries. I had something that was like $3.99. She got the same thing for $1.98, and she showed me, this is cheaper, but this is the name brand. If you want it, we can get it. But this is cheaper, and you get more for your money if you go this route. And stuff like that, I appreciate her doing for me.
And as her caregiver, I mean, y'all have been together for years. So, I mean, it's more like y'all are family kind of thing, isn't it?
Yes, I might meet my caregiver, if I want to go to they tell my money what I get. They tell my money what I get, like made to take me somewhere, take me to like a Kmart and not Kmart, like Ford and Doctor. They tell my money, and I meant right.
That's good.
My caregiver been with me for 4 years now, and she's a really good caregiver. She takes good care of me. She even to give me from the sweet treats sometimes. So she's been a good caregiver to me. Yeah, and my family as well. And so
What was that?
My family.
Family.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Diane has one more.
I just want to say something that goes along with attendant care. Here at Disability Connections, I was able, under the VISTA program, to work here for a year. Only God knows how much that had meant to me. That, first of all, I started with Yasmin until she threw me away, teaching me the computer. But then a little bit further down the road, Mark became my peer supporter. And he was so wonderful. He gave me my life back to me. He gave me the will to want to live and go on. But it also goes along with Disability Connections. Y'all have helped me with home modifications, my ramp that I got in the front of my house, that I can just drive my car up to it, and the ramp comes out on the ramp, and I got a automatic door opener, where it would be a struggle trying to get. Well, it would just been a struggle, but not only that. Y'all gave me a chance to work with other people that was a little bit more needier back then in 2000 and 2001. Back that I could say something, do something, or try, help them achieve some of their goals also. Because when I saw Mark and he was up on the top car and working on his own motor. I thought, well, if he can do that, I sure can do some things for myself. And he came out to my house and he said, first of all, you need to get rid of these dark curtains. It's very dark in here. You need to see some light. And then the second thing, Friday I will be back and we going for a ride in your car. And I thought, I haven't drove in 10 years. But through Mark and his confidence and his, you got to do it, you know. You just got to do it. You can do it, you know. Disability Connections and my peer supporter and all my friends here, y'all just don't know how much I appreciate all the help that I have received from you. And the most important thing of all is when Mark put in for my IWCP, he helped me before he passed away, and when I got that, I got more hours, and I couldn't see it coming down the line, but the Lord did, and He fixed it where I could get 7 days care and 8 hours a day, and it would not have been possible if I haven't been in contact with Disability Connection. Y'all are awesome. Y'all, the whole crew, staff, even Michael, he's just something else. He's the best, him and Julie, and I love y'all to death, and I just want to thank y'all for all the help that y'all have been to me and still helping me to this day.
Well, you're very welcome. We appreciate what you do for us too.
First, I would like to let y'all know a lot about my life. I was injured 33 years ago as a result of a car accident. My mother took care of me for the first 13 to 14 years, and then she was stricken with cancer, and I ended up having to get attendant care services, and I applied for the independent care waiver, and I got approved for 24 hours a day care in 1995. Because I'm on a ventilator, I have to have someone with me at all times. That's why I was 24-hour day care. Does everybody understand?
Was everybody able to understand that, or would it be, you don't have to be shy, you can put your hand up if you had a little bit of trouble hearing that at all? Yeah, a little. You understood most of it? Okay. If you're ever starting to have a little trouble, you can just kind of stick your hand up and I can repeat what he said. Like for you, Carl, if you start having a little trouble, just put your hand up and I'll kind of add in a little bit what he said for you. Edwin here is basically just to repeat for you, Carl. He's been injured and in his chair like this for about 33 years now. He was being taken care of mainly by his mother until she was stricken with cancer. And then after she was stricken with the cancer, he applied for the Independent Care Waiver Program, ICWP, about a year and a half later. About 1995 is when he was approved for the care. He was given 24 hours of care because of the fact that he is on a ventilator, and so he would need round-the-clock care for that. But he does say, you know, now unfortunately no one is getting the 24 hours of care because he had been on the program right there in the beginning of it. He was able to get the 24 hours of care. It's a lot less now, so.
So where I want to go with this next. You can move it. Well, since
He's saying that now since being on the care and the waiver program, he's a lot more independent. He likes to do a lot of things himself, but if he can get his caregivers to help, it helps him out dramatically. But he does do, as I always say, I'm mainly the hands, but he's the brains behind all of it, because everything you see here, he's built himself. I have no idea how to put none of that together, but he tells us every little movement and detail to do so he can take care of himself. And if he can find a way to do something himself, he's going to do it. And we just have to be the hands that kind of guide him for what he can't, physically do.
Went to Macon State College for a while, and I did well there. I studied all the time. I tried to work at disability connections and at school at the same time, and it seemed like it got to be too much.
He did go to Macon State for a while, and he did very well in it. He tried to work here at Disability Connections while going to school and studying, and it seemed to be a bit much to do both, so he ended up staying with Disability Connections.
I've been working here at Disability Connections as a peer support since October of 2000.
And he's been here with Disability Connections working mainly as a peer supporter since October of 2000.
As far as the independent care waiver, is everybody familiar with the independent care waiver program?
He was saying as far as the independent care waiver program goes, about roughly how many people are familiar with that program? Okay, a good bit of people are familiar with it.
Well, through the independent care waiver program, I have caregivers who come in and help me with things I need to have done, whether it's bathing, dressing, transferring to a wheelchair, heating, just a myriad of things. But there's a lot of things that I like to do that my caregivers, they may have no idea how to do it, but I tell them step by step how to do these things, and it's almost like I'm doing it myself.
With the independent care waiver program, he's been able to have caregivers like myself come in and help him do things like his bathing, his dressing, feeding, getting him out of the wheelchair in and out into bed. The basic, ADLs or, activities of daily living that people need done for them. However, there's a lot of activities that he likes to do anyways, or he likes to do outside of the ADLs that he has us help him with. A lot of it we don't even know how to do ourselves, so he guides us. For instance, when it comes to building his own tables or doing things around the house, setting up assistive devices around the house, fishing. I like to fish, but I don't take fish off the hook. So when we had to get it off the hook, he had to sit there and calm me down and tell me how to take it off the hook. So he does like to go out and do extra things. And if we don't know how to do it, I'm looking at him saying, okay, you got to tell me to the left, to the right, how much, how little, and he guides us with it. So
I think, as far as what I'm saying, as far as directing caregivers and working with caregivers, not just trying to tell somebody what to do, but trying to work with them, I think some of the things I've seen that help to make a successful working relationship are when you hire someone to begin with, you need to have clear expectations of what you expect out of them, what their job responsibilities are.
he was saying in regards to working with your caregivers or knowing how to work and utilize them, he says when he first hires individuals, he does make clear expectations of what our job titles are going to include and what he expects out of us while working with him.
I let them know about the ADLs, the personal care, the bathing and dressing and all that, but I also make it clear that I'm not just looking for somebody to do those things. I'm looking for somebody to do other things that I mean,
Like he said, besides the ADLs, he says, I'm a typical man. I like to go outside and get out in the outdoors and do things around outside. He keeps his yard very well groomed and very well kept. As a matter of fact, he blows the leaves off his driveway himself. He'll have us set his leaf blower on between his feet, and as long as we're walking behind him with the cord, he blows off all the leaves off the driveway, so he can keep his own driveway kept when he wants it done and not just when certain caregivers can do it. I know I'll speak personally. When I try to blow the driveway, the leaves go everywhere, and I can't figure out why they won't go in one direction. Edwin's better at it than I am. So I'll just follow behind him, and he blows the driveway himself. So.
Going back to the thing of having a clear understanding of what is expected with the caregivers, I have also what is called a checklist, and it's got a list of all of my personal care, of all of my house cleaning and such.
To kind of help keep tabs on what's expected and what needs to be done, he does have a checklist system at the house that has a list of all of like his ADLs that need to be done, and we check off each one that we do on our shifts. He's also got other chores or things that he likes to do on the list too, so we check off every one that we do, so you always have that visual reminder of the things that are expected to be done.
Like Kelsey was saying, I get nothing but my kid, I'm able to fish, and I just got recently kind of sort of made a fish bowl that I can use by just hitting this hand switch.
One of the things that Edwin's just recently worked on, one of his many projects, is he's learned how to fish on his own now. He devised a fishing pole and a fishing pole holder that he worked with a company that does electronic reels, and he actually worked with the company on installing a, what do you call that? A port that he can unplug one of his head switches, plug it into the fishing rod itself, and when he taps his head switch, it reels the fish in. We do cast for him, but he reels it in himself, and so he devised that himself, and that's something outside of the ADLs that he likes to do and that he needs us workers to help him with.
Also, I have Michael guiding me as far as trying to set up a system in my house to where I can control, although I can use nothing but my hand, I can use my mouse, take an iPad, and I can control my lights, my fan, my thermostat.
He says Michael helped guided him into this, but he does have a system to where though he can't move anything but his head, he can control like his lights, his fans, his TV, his stereos, his computer, and there's a lot of other devices that he's going to start hooking up to it just by using his iPad. That's what that mouse stick was that I removed, but he will use his iPad and he can control anything with infrared or with Z-Wave capabilities in his house.
All that's been said, you would think I can't do much nothing but my head, but yet, with the help of my caregivers, I've been able to do a lot more than I've been able to do most anything I've set my mind to with just the assistance of my caregivers. And I think it's important not only to have those clear expectations of what you want out of a caregiver and what their responsibilities are, but you gotta know how to train a person as well.
So he was saying, though many people, when they first look at him, think that there's not much that he can do, there's a lot that he is able to do because of the caregivers that he has working for him. He says a lot of that involves knowing how to treat a person and having clear expectations when you do your hiring.
Yes, I do.
Bible, and it really helps you with the commentaries and all that stuff that you can put on there.
That's something else. I believe that because of my faith in the Lord bless me more than I deserve. And I believe my faith has helped me as far as communicating with caregivers and all that. Because Jesus talked about if any person comes after him, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow Christ. Sometimes when you're dealing with caregivers, you have to deny yourself. You can't be selfish in this life. If you can deny yourself, you can learn to get along with people better.
Yeah, it was a great point you brought up. He does attribute his faith and his faith in the Lord and Jesus as to his success. He says that he might not be here if it wasn't for his faith, and that God has blessed him greatly. What was that quote that you said? You'd have to reiterate that for me. He said, Jesus said, he said that if anybody comes after him, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow him. And he says a lot of times, he said in dealing with caregivers, sometimes you have to deny yourself and not be selfish, you know. It's not all about yourself all the time. You do have another individual that you're trying to cooperate with.
I was told y'all that I was on I got on the independent care waiver in November of 1995.
Like he said, he got on the ICWP waiver back in 1995.
And back then, I had a caregiver agency come in and send it in caregivers to care for me.
Back then, when he first started off, he did have an attendant care agency coming in and giving him caregivers to come in and take care of him.
Around 2005, the state created another program to where you can bypass the attendant agency and more or less start directing your own care.
Consumer directed that he's speaking of is only through the ICWP, the Independent Care Waiver Program.
When a person first applies for the independent care waiver program, they have to be on the traditional program using an agency for 6 months.
He says in the beginning, when an individual applies for the ICWP program, they have to be on the traditional route for 6 months with an agency, and the agency sending in workers for about the first 6 months at least.
After that, they have the choice. If they want to go to do self-directed care, they can choose to do self-directed care.
After that, then you're given the choice if you want to try and do self-directed care, then you can.
But if you choose to do self-directed care, there's a lot of responsibility with it as well.
But doing self-directed care, there is going to be a lot of responsibility that comes along with that program.
There's a lot of paperwork. You have to find your caregivers. You have to train your caregivers.
With that, some of the responsibilities are there's a lot of paperwork that you have to maintain and fill out. You have to find your own workers. You got to train your own workers.
You have to have a backup plan in case your worker don't show up.
You have to be able to have devised a secure backup plan in case your workers don't show up.
The state also has a backup plan as well, but it's like they send in an attendant agency if your backup plan fails.
He says that the state does have a backup plan and system where they send in an attendant agency if your backup plan does fail.
But if you use that 2 times within a year, you get kicked off the self-directed program and have to go back to the traditional.
He says, however, the stipulations with that is if you need to utilize their backup plan 2 times within a 12-month period or a year, you are no longer eligible to do the consumer directed, and you go back to the traditional traditional program.
Also, if you can't manage your hours and budget properly, you ought to send back to the traditional program.
He said also with that, if you don't manage your hours appropriately or budget appropriately, then you will then also be put back onto the traditional program.
There are some benefits to doing self-directed care. I think one of the biggest is you can usually pay your worker a little bit more, and sometimes you can find better workers as a result of it.
One of the benefits with the consumer-directed program is a lot of times you can pay your workers more, which a lot of times he says you can find, better quality workers that way.
The workers seem to be happier as well.
Yeah, and he says his workers seem to be happier as well.
What are you talking about?
In regards to can't afford it, are you thinking it's like out of your personal money?
No. Have you heard of the consumer-directed care program?
Are you familiar with the consumer-directed program and kind of how the financial things work with that? Okay. Okay. You want to give that example?
Well, what it is instead of using attendant agency, you have to handle all those responsibilities of your caregiver and finding your caregiver, training, all that stuff. You have to handle that yourself, but the money don't come to you. The state has a payroll agency that the money comes to them and they pay your worker.
Basically, with the attendant care agency, you're going to be doing their responsibilities when it comes to managing everything. However, the money that goes to the agency no longer will be going to the agency. It's going to be placed into a fiscal agent, a payroll company. And that payroll company pays your workers. You have to do the tax, take out the taxes and such, but it takes out the cost of the agency, which allows for the workers to get paid a higher pay than what would be if it went to the agency, and the agency takes out their cut, and then the work, whatever's taken out, and the worker gets what's left. You bypass all that, so there's more money available, and the workers get that. So it's not of your personal money. It's actually still through a fiscal agent, a payroll company, that the money the government's giving the agency, you're actually getting at the fiscal agent.
Going back to this consumer-directed care option of the independent care waiver, this is not for everybody.
He says, but going back to the consumer-directed care option, he does say it's not for everybody.
It does require more out of you. There is a lot of paperwork, but you have to be. If you have a lot of caregiver problems, then it wouldn't be for you.
He says, for instance, there's a lot more paperwork involved that you are responsible for handling, and if you tend to have problems with caregivers, it's not really recommended if you have a lot of problems with caregivers and working with them, it's not always a benefit. So, yeah, sounding like she's been great. So.
You might make a success out of it, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah, he says in your situation, it actually sounds as if you'd be able to make a pretty successful event out of it, but it's not for everybody.
Just an example of why it's not for everybody. Say that you're on the consumer-directed care program and your worker is sick or your worker don't show up. Well, you ain't gonna have the agency to call them and say, hey, I don't have anybody. So it's up to you to find those workers.
He says, for example, if you have an issue with workers not showing up, if you're on the consumer-directed program and your worker doesn't show up, you don't have an agency that you can call to have them bring somebody in. That's all on you, and it's on you to have had the backup plan for those situations that occur.
Someone does decide to do the consumer-directed care, then it's something you have to do. You have to let your case manager know that you want to do consumer-directed care, and you have to find a case manager that is approved to do that care, to do that case management service, because not all SWP case
Yeah, he was saying in regards to the case manager, that is something you would have to speak with your case manager and let them know that you'd like to do, because not all ICWP case managers are approved to do consumer-directed care. So that is another stipulation or thing you'd have to look into, requirement, is that your case manager is able to do consumer-directed care.
If your case manager is not, then you can find a case manager.
So in the situation that your case manager isn't able to do that, you then would have to try to find one that does do consumer-directed care.
I told you that I got 24 hours to take care. Well, the way I work my backup plan is I don't hire anybody full-time. I have 7 part-time workers, and that way I'm allowed, I can use my workers to fill in for each other.
The way in which he kind of handles his backup plan is he doesn't hire anybody full-time. He's got 7 part-time workers, which makes it a little more easier for everyone to kind of fill in for each other, pick up hours when it's needed. So he doesn't usually have a problem when it comes to filling hours or spaces because everyone's part-time.
No, I use a payroll agency, but they don't. You can't call them with the ticket problems. That's on you.
Yeah, no, he doesn't go through an agency. He hires us himself, but he does use a payroll company to pay us, but he can't call them if anything happens with one of us, so.
The state has that payroll agency, and the payroll agency takes out taxes on the workers.
Yeah, he says the state has the payroll agency, and the agency takes out taxes on his workers.
I was going to ask you, how do you find your caregivers?
Oh, usually I run an grants list. I have done paper. I have people to that I've hired who sent us made suggestions about other people.
He's done things like Craigslist. He's hired people like out the newspaper. I myself responded to a newspaper ad, or just having suggestions from other workers or other individuals that recommend certain people to him.
What types of questions do you use when you're interviewing?
Oh, let me think. I go over the job expectations. I tell them what I'm looking for. As far as questions, I don't know. I just, sure. Go on.
I mean, you can answer how you do it, but I know you have a team approach to your interviews sometimes. And do you want to talk about that? Okay. And I have some paperwork for you, Debbie, that I go over. I tailor my questions when I'm doing my interviewing to like, what is your background employment-wise? Are you certified in anything? Do you have CPR, first aid, TB? And then I get into what type of disabilities have you worked with? Where have you worked with them? What types of transfers have you done? Hoyer lifts, sliding boards. I also ask about my personal care that I have done. Have you done catheterizations? Have you, bathing, dressing, grooming? Then I'm like, do you like animals? Because I have 2 animals that need to be cleaned up after. Are you okay with that? Do you like to cook? Just kind of really what my needs are. I just ask those questions. I mean, there's certain questions you have to be careful of that you can't ask. But I have a whole packet that I'm going to be talking with consumers about today that I can pass along to you. But Edwin does it really, I want him to at least explain how he does his interview process, because it's totally different in the way that I do it, but it's a good idea.
The way I do group interviews, and I can have 10 people show up for a group interview. I explain to them what I'm looking for. I have an application I get them to fill out with their job history on it. I do look for people who have good parties, all those references again as far as their work history, as far as when they come to work on time. And I've really been real successful with my workers because we been 5 years. Adults been with me 8 years. Myself, the has been with me since 1995.
He was saying he does do group interviews. He can have up to 10 people at his residence when he's doing the interviews. He does hand out an application packet for them to fill out. He goes over his basic job duties and what's expected of them. He looks at their work history. He looks to see for references and if they're going to be on work on time or dependable for the hours that he's needing them to work with. Through that, he's had me with him for 5 years. He's had another lady, Miss Dawn, with him for 8. He's had Miss Altamise since 1995. So he's had success in finding people with a long work history to work with him.
Do you put any parameters, if you have somebody that doesn't maybe have a good, or they don't have a lot of training, but you feel like they would make a good fit, do you have some parameters that you put on that?
Well, as far as myself, I train my own workers. My sister does help me with the training. She can show hands on what to do. But after one day of being her training them, then after that I tell them step by step how to do things. But as far as, let's see what you was asking as far as parameters, as far as training, I don't require someone who has to work in the medical field. And even sometimes I think I almost prefer somebody who doesn't have any experience because I can train them like I need them to be trained.
Now, he was saying most often when he hires somebody, he'll train them himself. He has his sister with him do one day. They will go through the hands-on shift work and what's expected, and then after that, they are trained by himself. I know myself, an example, he trained me step by step as to what to do. I didn't have any medical experience before him. He doesn't always require that they have medical experience just because sometimes he's like that they don't because it's like a fresh slate for him to train up what he expects and as he expects it, so.
But I'm a lot different from other people as far as that. A lot of people like people with experience, and I understand that as well.
Yeah, he does acknowledge that he is a lot different from other people. A lot of people do like to have the experience, and it can be very important. Edwin's just extremely independent, and he's very good at guiding and directing his care, so.
Do you sometimes give them an out? Do you do like a trial period, or how do you work that out? So just so you'll know, or they'll decide if they don't like or don't want to do this.
I know what you're asking. I've often thought about that as far as having to understand, get ready, as far as having a 3-month or 90-day trial. But I do not do that, but I've often considered whether that would be a wise thing to do. But so far I've been successful with that.
The way I kind of do mine is in the beginning, I do a process of 3 interviews, and then I do like a phone interview, a face-to-face, and then I do a 3-day observation, and have the person come in and just observe everything that I have to have done. And then I sit down with the last interview, and I'm like, okay, is this something you would be interested in? Can you do it? If you can, I take no offense. Please tell me now, because I don't want to get you in here and train you and waste your time or mine. So if they say yes, they can. By that time, I've talked with them extensively. We've gone through references. We've gone through all those things. And they've seen the type of care that I'm going to need. And, they're at a point where they say yes, they can, or no, they can't. As far as getting hired and having a probationary period, I haven't had to do so far just because I have that option with the attendant, but it's always kind of worked out. Either they stay, or if they don't, then I just move on. But as far as getting all the expectations out is the main thing, showing them what you have to have done.
So your observation period, they're not paid during that time? They just come
No.
in and observe you for 3 days?
Right, well, I say that, their first observation day, they don't get paid. If they're interested and they want to come back the second two and do kind of hands-on a little bit, then they would get paid. But I usually have them do the first day of observation, and then after that day, you kind of know whether or not they're going to work out, or at least I would know.
Quick question. Now, when it comes to safety concerns, backgrounds, do you do background checks? You know, I know someone has assisted you with driving, and you're a stickler with driving. I have had the pleasure of working with Edwin many years ago. You're a stickler with, driving skills. Do you run, current DMVs and all of that?
With the consumer direct care program, I can't have anyone that's felony number one. They do have to pass a background check. As far as safety, I mean, as far as driving and all that, I've only had one person to wreck one vehicle over that once since 95, and it was just a small wreck, but I'm
It wasn't me, was it?
driver.
I don't remember. It wasn't me, was it? No, I'm just.
No, it
I know it wasn't.
He was saying in regards to the consumer directed program, nobody with a felony can actually get hired on. That's through the program itself. Everyone does have to pass a background check. And in regards to driving, he's been lucky. He's only, since 95, only had one minor accident. But other than that, he's a good driver. He looks out for when I'm not looking out.
The reason I had that accident is because I was tilting back in my chair all the way up here, and I was saying, well, I'm going to trust this person to get me there without me.
So basically, and in regards to the accident, he says it really was the reason why he had the accident was because he was tilted back and had thought to himself, I'm going to trust this person driving. And then he learned that now he has to sit up a lot of times. So.
Something that earned my trust.
But he does have some that have earned his trust to where he will lay back. But he keeps a very good eye on the road, especially if he has ones like me talking to him the whole time we're driving. So.
Also break, they do have to have CPR and first aid, and it's their responsibility to keep it up.
And he does say with the consumer directed program, workers are required to have their CPR and first aid, and it is their responsibility to keep that up themselves. So.
My name's Michael Leverett. I'm the Director of Disability Connections here. And I am actually, the majority of the staff that we have here are people with disabilities, and it's governed. Our board of directors is run by people with disabilities. And I myself do not have a disability, although that could be certainly discussed and negotiated, because I do forget things and I'm not very organized. But I am a caregiver, and that's kind of why I'm here. And Yasmin is here as well, and she's going to go right after me to talk about her experience as a caregiver. My experience with caregiving really began in my dating years. My wife has a form of muscular dystrophy, and it's a progressive form. And when I met her, she was actually walking, but she had symptoms really since birth. And we, knowing early in the relationship, I knew that she had struggles. I learned later on that her struggles turned into, would change over time, because her form of muscular dystrophy was progressive. And sometimes certain things would change or just kind of creep up, but it would change something major in life. It changed her ability to walk without assistance. I used to be called her walking handrail when we were first married, actually when we were dating, helping her up the stairs and that kind of thing. Needless to say, I've gotten all the way to the point of now that she's in a power chair, needing to be able to tilt and recline in it in order to relieve pressure from her diaphragm, because her form of muscular dystrophy adds myelin, which is the nerve, and so the signals can't going through, so it's kind of caused her legs not to work and her hands not to work, and now it's beginning to affect her diaphragm. So it's, I've gone from just very little caregiving to full 24/7 practically of making sure her needs are met. Some of my other experiences were working with her grandmother, who was paralyzed from the diaphragm down, and she was probably the oldest living paraplegic, probably in Georgia for sure. And she lived in her own place until she was about 90, close to 90. She was 88 or 89, and but she was still in her own place. It was a struggle, but I had experience doing that with her, and I now also have a daughter. She's now 21 years old. Her needs are not as intense, but she uses a prosthetic, has a learning disabilities, and not quite full function of her hands, but she does pretty well. So let me just give you a picture of what I'm doing now. She's not able to transfer anymore. So there was a point when she could weight bear some that I was able to help her pivot from one place to another. But soon that was, because she had so many surgeries on her toes and feet, that was becoming painful, and it was becoming painful to her back when I would do that. So now we're using electronic lifts as much as we can, looking for a manual lift just to put up in the attic in case we lose power for a long time. Because that's one of our fears, is not being able to use what we depend on greatly. But to where she was my partner in cooking, I'm now the cook. She's still able to eat, but she's having to use special utensils. A lot of foods I have to cut up for her. We are looking at down the road of me actually maybe even having to help feed her. We might look to some technology there, but you can't, some of the stuff you can't take with you everywhere. So caregiving has been on my mind for a long time, and certainly on my life. And some of you here have been caregivers much longer than I have. Your experience is certainly great. I'm going to share some things that really pertain to our philosophy of independent living, and how does caregiving really fit into that. There's some things that we can do, and things that we can say, and things we shouldn't say, and things that affect how the recipient of care responds and reacts to things. It's a two-sided thing. It's a really tough relationship. Mine is marriage, but sometimes I know some of you all that work many hours during the day with this one individual, and it is kind of like a marriage. For them, it's sometimes like a marriage. Sometimes it's like a business. They have to be the boss. They have to do all these things. I want to just share with y'all a great deal of what that entails. How can it work together so both of you have your needs met? Because y'all have needs as well. Yasmin, come on over here and
Thank you.
let's talk about your experience.
Oh, I can talk loud enough.
No, but this is not amplified. It's recorded.
Oh, well, I guess caregiving, I had to, it's pretty much in my blood, I guess. I think being a woman, really caregiving is something that we do, from children, or, just we just have that in our blood, I guess. But my caregiving is also with my parents. I had some aging parents, which both my parents are deceased now. And I guess I have other sisters as well, but I felt like I was the one that was, there to take care of my parents. And that can be, a lot on a person when you're trying to take care of your children as well as trying to take care of your parents. So it was, it was something, I guess, in my heart. I just felt like this is something that I had to do, as well as something that I wanted to do, because my parents, of course, have taken care of me all my life. And so, you feel like once they get to where they can't take care of themselves, that's something that we're supposed to, the Bible even speaks of that. We're supposed to take care of our parents. And so the thing about taking care of your parents as well, it wasn't where I would take over their lives. My dad, he still was in his right mind. He was able to make his own decisions. He was able to, tell me what he wanted to eat, or if he didn't want to eat, or, it wasn't for me to make him do this or make him do that. He still, was able to, have things the way he wanted to have them. And it wasn't my place to try to change him in any kind of way. So it's basically just caring for him, but not taking over their lives, not taking over his life. Now, my mom, she got to the point where she wasn't in her, she wasn't able to make choices for herself, so we had to, sort of do some things for her. Now, she didn't really want to do things like take a bath or something. They got to take a bath. Well, she didn't want to do that. So, we had to, go ahead and, sometimes you have to make those, those choices. Now, in my dad's case, he didn't want a woman to bathe him. Okay, so he had that choice. He didn't want a woman, he wanted a man all the time. And if a man didn't come, he wasn't going to take a bath. So still, some things, like my dad was in his right mind, but if he didn't want to do something and we thought he should do it, we had to back off, because that was his life. That was his choice of what he wanted to do. So, like I said, I miss my parents. It's kind of hard talking about them right now. But caregiving, to me, that word care, we are, we're supposed to care about the person. It's supposed to be more than just doing something. If you don't care about the person, then, you're not going to do a good job, basically. So it's about more than just doing. It's about the feeling on the inside for another human being, and, and just wanting to help them, but at the same time, looking at that person as an individual with their own mind, their own thoughts, their own, and we're there to assist them, basically. So that's about it, Michael.
We all each have challenges of caregiving, and I just want to open this up a little bit before I start talking about what's good, bad, and what works, and how we can work together. One of y'all, or several of you, share what is your biggest challenge of caregiving, and I'll hand this to you when you.
My biggest challenge with caregiving has been my pride issues, or overcoming. I don't like change. I like things as they are. I like to know what's going on. As y'all know, I work with Edwin, and he's very explorative and likes to do a lot of new things. So when I first started with him, it was trying things that I've never done before, and now knowing that I have the responsibility of taking care of myself and him while doing it, which put a lot of pressure. I'm a naturally nervy person, so my challenges have been to overcome doing my fears and being able to allow someone to have their independence, even if it's not something I would naturally do. And that was something I had to work on, and be willing to learn new things and take directions, because I might think I know something one way and go to do it, and it's the way that works for me, but it's not necessarily what works best for him. And he's been doing this a lot longer, so what works best for him often is the best way. So learning to listen and overcome my own fears. So anybody else got any other challenges that y'all come across?
Well, I don't do just direct care, but I manage a lot of staff.
30 staff that
That's
does the
caregiving.
direct care. Yeah. And the challenges that I see not only within myself, but I see that the staff have is learning that it's not about you. It's about the person that you're taking care of. And if you take you out of the equation, you can be a better caregiver for the person that you support. Now, like I always tell them, is always will be a struggle. These situations are not quick fixes. But if you have the mindset and patience to listen and to, think about the person needs and what they want and take you out of the equation, your job will be a whole lot better, not only for you, but for the person that you're providing supports to. And that's the biggest challenge. Not knowing how to communicate with the person, because you're getting your own emotions tied up in the situation, which you should not. You shouldn't have. If you have I'm not saying that, a caretaker can't have emotions or soft heart for the person that you're dealing with, but sometimes you have to have a heart of iron, because the way they deliver their message, they probably don't mean anything by it, but it makes people react in a different way. But if you really care and truly, honestly care about the person that you're supporting, you'll have to look and try to overcome those obstacles and barriers of how it's mainly communication. But I see a lot of challenge in.
Anybody else? I know it ain't easy. Just think of a major challenge that you face that you don't mind sharing.
Just getting used for us. Well, for me, and I pray I don't cry, is just getting used to this, because this has just happened to my son. He's been at home for 4 months, and it has not been easy for us or him. And the thing with me is I've got to learn not to get upset. And from being his mom, that is the hardest part for me. So, and I just pray this never happens to nobody else I know, because I promise you this is not something that's easy. But y'all have been wonderful. Edwin has been a godsend to us, and everybody here that we have met. Edwina, the little lady we met, and we met Brooke. And I mean, all of y'all have been just so sweet and so supportive. And any questions we have, y'all have helped us, because with the Care Waiver Act, we're supposed to be getting somebody to help us. We're just on a waiting list right now. So that is just knowing that maybe soon we'll have a little bit extra help makes a big difference. So, and I want to say thank you to all y'all.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to talk about me a lot, and I apologize. I usually don't like doing that at all, but this is a huge part of my life. How I go to work, what do I do? My constant thinking is, will my wife be okay? She's at home. Down the road, I need to figure out a way maybe for her to come back to work with me, and so that I can make sure her needs are being met. There's so many things. But I can tell you, I had a preconceived idea that her disability was going to be much later, or the progression of it wasn't going to happen this soon. So that surprise factor, although it was progressive in nature, it was still kind of like, oh, okay, I've got to get used to this. This is not really quite what I thought life was going to be here. And it reminds me, I'm going to come to that in a minute, but my biggest challenge for me as a caregiver was two things. One is pity, the pity that I may have for my wife and the situations she's going through is a danger. Seeing her as someone to be pitied is a danger. And you're going to learn a lot more in a moment about why that's a danger. But from my perspective, what my biggest danger was, and that I did struggle with, and I still do from time to time, and I know we all do, is self-pity. And it's what we preach a lot in independent living for people with disabilities, not to have self-pity. But it's not discussed a lot from the caregiver standpoint. I'm doing this is tough, this is hard, and especially when it's a marriage. I mean, has anybody heard the statistics of couples that have gotten divorced because of disability? It is out of the roof. It's phenomenal.
I thought about something.
Okay.
Beneficial. My mother ended up with dementia, and something I regret to this day. Because after things are over, you look back on it. One lady said not ever to argue with them, but I was very analytical, and I think at times creative. And I would try to make sure that she had the facts like, oh, so-and-so, I miss them so much. Well, Mama, that happened 30 years ago. I will never do that again.
Thank you.
I won't do that. I will not try to set the facts straight again. And the other thing was, I could think of things that would be so beneficial for her. And I wanted her to have these things. And if I tried to do it for her, she was so independent. No, I don't want to eat this. You eat it. I want you to have it. How do you talk people into doing something that's good for them? And I guess the whole thing it comes back to is just accept it.
Sometimes it does.
And because I would give her a bath, she'd say, oh, that feels so good. And it would give me so much pleasure. Mama, let's get you a bath. I don't want a bath. I don't need a bath. So how do you handle all these things? I had the ability to be creative and say this would work for her. She got to the point she had love pants and shirts that she couldn't handle that. Well, I bought her something like a t-shirt dress, and they were very colorful. And her mind had gone far enough, she thought she was a great seamstress, that those were beautiful things. And she loved to wear them. But at the same time, when they needed changing, she'd say, no, I'm all right. And how do you handle those things?
Dementia's really tough.
Really tough.
Dementia's really, really tough.
And then it comes.
And I still, it's been 7 years she's been gone. No, actually, she's been gone 8 years this March. And I miss her terribly. And I still regret some of those things. Where I was going, no, Mama, we have to do it this way. I don't want to be doing that anymore.
And sometimes it evolves into that point that when you were trying to negotiate, then it becomes that challenging situation to where some things you have to go, I can't negotiate anymore. We have to do something. And that's a fine line. You know, how many times people have had to negotiate that wonderful driver's license situation. That's such a huge issue. And my wife's mother is not there yet, but I do see some signs because her mom, who was paralyzed, suffered from some dementia. But fortunately, she was not driving at all. She didn't ever want to. But there's times that you have to make that tough decision of, okay, sometimes trying to figure out why she doesn't want that kind of thing. There may be some reasons, but at some point down the road, it may be that there may not be a choice. We have to make it happen. And I'm not an expert to say how you make that happen or whatever, but I want to talk about going back to my self-pity. I can tell you it was harmful to my marriage. Every time when I was thinking that my situation was bad, this is me. Every time I thought, okay, I loved fishing. I fished with my dad, and that was one of my big hobbies. I haven't been fishing in I haven't done like a full day. I mean, maybe there's been maybe twice in the last 10 years that I've gone for a couple, an hour and a half, and I have to get back. My wife's not interested in finishing either, so that's kind of a marriage thing. But it's those things. I have, I love sports. I love giving up. I used to be an athlete, and now I'm much more sedentary because I do stay with my wife for the most part. There was some dark times in my life though. I really started feeling sorry for myself, and I knew that thought process and being in that state makes you think things of, well, what if this is really unfair and I don't deserve this? I had my wife's brother has the same form of muscular dystrophy, not as progressed at the point that my wife's is, but his wife had enough, and she left. So she could go have fun. That's the ultimate danger of what self-pity can do. It can make you make choices for yourself that overlooks what was happening to the individual that had no choice of the disease that she has. So we have to be real careful of pity and self-pity. It's really dangerous. One little analogy I'd like to share is I used to play football at Central, loved it. One of the neatest physical, challenging, and mental things that I did. But one thing I learned is that you can play every single play, and you can play your hardest. But if you give up on one play, it can be the matter of losing or winning. And I feel like providing care is that way too. Sometimes you need to figure out a way to have a substitute. You can't do it 24/7. I can tell you, I'm trying to do that in a way. But my daughter's a blessing, and my wife's. I always think that it could be worse. I could be struggling in much greater ways, and maybe we will down the road. But I don't want to say, pity me for that. It's really, we're in it together, and we're working through it together. And there's a lot of me having to deny myself, my own self-desires, my own ambitions in life. I'd love to go play golf. I'd love to do all these things and have fun, hang out with guys or whatever. I can think about that, or I can live without that choice. And you know what? I'm okay. I'm okay with not having to do everything that I thought I could do, or everything I should be doing, or whatever. This is my life. This is the choice I made. I knew that she was going to have a disability. And then, whether you have a child or whether you are married, these are not just contracts to be broken. They're more of a covenant in ways, especially in these relationships. Yes, we try to work on other resources and ways, but we're committed to one another. There's no reason why we should part ways. Now, in a paid situation, it's different. Yeah, if it got into a point where you can't stand it anymore, you can leave. You can do those things, but sometimes you don't want to. You want to do the right thing. You want to keep doing it, and things are not working. I'm hoping that by the end of this day that you might be able to start thinking of ways how I can communicate differently and how I can do things differently to make sure this person's not upset with me all the time. There may be there's a guy named David Petoniak when I worked with people with developmental disabilities, and he did this training, and the one thing that he taught me, he said, the one thing that you need to remember, that problem behavior is a sign of a need gone unmet. There's a reason and a purpose for this behavior. It's happening for a reason. And sometimes we need to stop fighting the behavior. Let's get at, well, why do you feel this way? Why is this going on? Let's see if we can figure this out. So there's a lot of really good things that we can do. Now I'm going to get a little deep in a philosophical way of the relationship. I think it's important. And I'll turn this around in just a bit, but it's a chart, and it's put together by a guy who has He's a national spokesman, but he's a guy with cerebral palsy. His name is Norman Kunk, and his wife, or I don't know if they're partners in business or whatever, Emma van der Clift. And they came up with Benevolence, Friendship, and the Politics of Help. And the name of, I can search it every time. It's all HE double hockey sticks bent on helping. Sometimes even how we help people has an impact on the relationship. One is the person is needing that has a feeling behind it. There's a sense. Sometimes there's a reason why somebody is blocking you but don't want to help because it makes me feel a certain way. So this is called a contrast between offering help and receiving help. So you have the ability to help someone. So why do we like offering help? When in respect to our ability, it affirms our capacity. We are capable of handling these needs. But what does it do to the person receiving help? It implies that they're deficient, that they're not capable of doing for themselves. So it does something for the caregiver in a positive way, but it's not always a positive way for the person receiving care. Okay, in respect to their value, why do we like offering help? Because it affirms our worth as a person. We're valuable. I'm a caregiver. You know, it does have a healthy ring in today's society. Oh, you're a caregiver. Oh, bless your heart. Oh, it's amazing that you get all that. Oh, how do you do what you do? Have y'all heard that before? It does affirm your worth. But what about the person who's receiving the help? It actually implies that they are a burden to you, or a burden to others because of their disability. What position in their life does it affect? You. It as a caregiver, it usually affirms that there's some type of superiority, that you're in control, you're above. I'm the caregiver. I'm the one in control here. But for the person who's receiving the care, it implies inferiority, that they're inferior because they're having to receive this care. I'm not trying to criticize the way that you've done things. I want you to be open to what, in your art of caregiving, what and how it affirms you, it helps you, and you know that you're doing something great. But just realize that the person needing it, and I can tell you my wife has struggled with this from time to time of how it affects her. She does get upset because I'm having to do this. She is upset because I don't get to do a lot of things I want to do. It does. She feels like she's inferior at times and that kind of thing. I can tell you in a little bit, I'm going to share a lot of things that I've done personally to kind of help us both overcome those two things. Okay, there's another personal dimension of obligation, okay? When you provide care to somebody, it's almost natural to feel that you are owed. Either I need more pay or I need more respect, whether you're paid or not. It seems to go in two different ways. I don't get paid enough to do this. Somebody owes me more to do what it is that I'm doing. Or I've been doing this and all this kind of thing, and this is the way you're treating me, kind of thing. Sometimes it closes the door to being open to why they're upset or that kind of thing. So when you feel like, I've been doing this, I've given up my whole life for you. Well, you owe me. That's not healthy. And then the person receiving help feels obligated in some way for the help that they get. And then it also affects the vulnerability. For somebody who offers help, a lot of times it masks your own vulnerability. You have your own vulnerability, and it's something that you normally don't share with somebody. Sometimes people do. It just depends on the personality. But sometimes when I put myself in a caregiver role, I'm not vulnerable. I'm empowered here. I'm this kind of thing. But when a person receives help, it reminds them that they are vulnerable. and sometimes based on the severity of the disability, they can be more vulnerable. So I hope that opens your eyes a little bit to how just the act of caregiving itself has an effect on the people that you're serving. And I can tell you on an emotional level, my wife has experienced these things, these feelings, and it's absolutely natural. I mean, we're independent people. We want to do for ourselves. We want to do these things, but when it comes to a point that you can't, she and I, we're working on technology things and trying to see what she can do better. She's now trying to get a tray, and it's one I have to put on every day. There was almost a point that she wanted to reject it because she didn't want to burden me to put it on and off. I had to encourage her to say, okay, I would much rather do this. I tell you what, I'd much rather put this tray on you so you don't drop your phone every 20 minutes. So you can have that on there. You're actually doing something for me by using this. So I don't mind. I don't mind getting the tray. You when you're ready for it, you tell me to put it on there. Let's get it on there. Another little chart that they had on here is responses to diversity. It's kind of doesn't completely tie into what we've done, but on the personal caregiver level. But I want to talk to y'all a little bit about it. There's four things: marginalization, reform, tolerance, and valuing. Marginalizing, and if I decided to leave my wife, that would have been a form of marginalizing her. She's no longer an important part of my life. So that would be a form of segregating or avoiding, or sometimes it even leads towards aggression, which can be very harmful. Then there's the reform, trying to fix the person. That's trying to get them to assimilate in ways that may not be feasible. And then there's a whole field called rehabilitation of trying to fix the person. Well, I can tell you my wife's disability, no matter how much you give to Jerry Lewis Telethon, it's not going to fix her. And they haven't cured one type of disability. They may have made some progress and things. I'm not trying to shun it all together, but it shouldn't be my intent or my desire to have her fixed or to rehabilitate her. If it's possible, if something for her to learn or so some disabilities need that, and that's important to retain as much as you can physically to maintain your independence. But at some point you run into a wall that rehabilitation makes no sense. But it also has that attitude that I'm trying to get you fixed. Then the tolerance is just, I'm just tolerating. I resign to just accept you for who you are, that kind of thing. But that's what you are. It's kind of an over benevolence. I care for you, but you're different, and benevolence is the idea behind that. And we call it sometimes benevolent caregiving. It's when it's kind of feeds back into that pity aspect of, I'm doing for you, this is great for you, this kind of thing. Let me jump right out of that and let's go to valuing the person for who they are. I could be that person in that chair. I could be that person in that situation. Now when you're looking at and seeing that person as an equal, even regardless of what abilities they've lost cognitively, physically, whatever, they're still an adult. Yes, they may have behaviors that are not quite right. Some things may not be, but they're still a young man, a young woman, older man, whatever, who they are who they are. And when you start seeing them as an equal, that changes. And I can tell you my self-pity for my wife is the biggest way to squelch me seeing her as an equal. And she is my equal. Well, she's beyond my equal, if you know the truth. Ella knows that, right? By the way, y'all, Ella's a board member of Disability Connections, and she knows Geraldine very well. And yet she is really beyond, many of y'all know Geraldine, but I consider her above my equal in many ways. I treasure her work to me, even though she can't take care of herself. Her value, her prayers for me, her prayers for her daughter and her family, her love, her wisdom, her advice, all those things, I see her as equal. Let me give you a little story. When I used to work at Star Choices many years ago, there was a young man with autism. He could not speak at all. And he pretty much just sat in his chair when I first came to work there, and he just sat there. Drooled a lot. And, you know, took care of his needs, changed his diaper, whatever it was that I had to do. You know, that was just his existence, just waiting for whatever. I started thinking, okay, this guy is about my same age, and I'm not going to assume that he does not understand what I'm telling him or understand. So I started calling him by name. I started treating him with respect. I would talk to him as if he understood me. And you know what? Every time I started coming into the room, you know what he would do? He would stand up. And he would do something very autistic-like, but I came in the room, he was excited. We had a relationship because I started valuing him as an equal. And so when I was hired to take care of them. But when I started seeing him as my equal, it changed the way he interacted. The other thing too is the drooling. I had the opportunity to take him out and drive him around a little bit. And I said, you know, this drooling thing is, I don't understand it, whatever. I'm just wondering if he just needs a lot more to drink. Yes, I'm gonna have to take him to the bathroom more and change his diaper. I gave him more to drink. Guess what? His drooling reduced significantly. Yes, his diaper filled up. But I heard other caregivers in that same building say, don't give him something to drink. You're gonna have to change his diaper more. But you know what? He loved it when I gave him something to drink. He did drink it. It slowed down the drooling. And his respect for me, every time, when I wasn't working in there anymore, and I would walk in the room, he would get up, and it was like, he recognized that. And to this day, I don't know where he's at now, but it's like, he is my equal. He just happened to have attained some type of disability at birth. And he responded to my level of respect and seeing him as an equal and talking to him as an equal. And he responded incredibly. Sometimes when you have, there's a little system that they started in school system, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but it kind of bothered me when I first heard it, because I have some other family members, that they're always compared to based on the way they behave as a certain age thing. I understand that. There's a cognitive, sometimes, challenge there. They want to measure that somehow. But I can tell you, utilizing age-appropriate things, the way that we speak and interact with individuals has an effect. Don't we struggle with self-respect a lot? I know I do. So having that level of self-respect as an individual with disability is even more of a struggle. So if we treated individuals, however hard it is, however much more work it sometimes brings along, seeing that person as an equal might eliminate some of the behaviors that you're struggling with and some of the challenges you may be struggling with. Edwin had it right. It's about denying yourself and letting somebody else's role. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand reality. If my wife starts saying something ugly to me, guess what? I'm going to communicate to her, I was hurt by that. Same way with her, I expect her to do that to me. There should be this open level of communication of that kind of thing. I mean, you shouldn't be treated badly, and you should be able to express that. But it's harder to express that if you're not treating that person as an equal, as an adult, another person, another individual, you know, that has feelings, has sometimes worth is not always earned. I mean, I think God has shown that to us, that He has valued us even as in our worthlessness. And so being worth something in a relationship is huge. So how to maintain integrity and promote independence and value of the consumer of care. I think that communication, like I just said, is how we maintain integrity of our relationship, is keep that communication open. You're gonna butt heads. I can tell you, since I've put away my try to rid myself as much as possible of my own self-pity, I argue with my wife much less. And you know what? She's doing the same. And sometimes it's not even something we even talk about, but we start treating each other in that way and communicating with each other and not letting something slide. You sweep it under that rug, it's almost like a fungus. It will grow, and it may get worse over time. Confront those things. Work those things out. There's in my own beliefs, of in my relationship with the Lord, and I'm not trying to tell y'all how to think or whatever, but I just wanted to express to you how I feel about what I do. And I don't want, my wife has a purpose, and I think she has a divine purpose. She's still here, and she's still able to do things. And just her being with me as my wife has enormous value. It has divine value. It has a godly value. She and I have not just a contract with one another, we have a covenant that's supposed to be inseparable. And I also have a purpose. I think even a divine purpose for being a caregiver. I don't even like calling it that so much, but I'm her husband, number one. But caregiving has a divine purpose. God has called me to be a caregiver. Some of you folks that are attendants or whatever, I mean, you may have felt a calling to do what it is that you do. I think it is a silent, certainly an unappreciated at a lot of given times thing, but I think if you struggle with getting the kudos that sometimes we need, I think if you can take with you that it's really, it is a divine purpose, not as a caregiver, but as an equal supporting another to live their life in the best way that they can. I think it has enormous purpose. We can't change the inevitable. We can't change things. And we don't want our government changing things or getting in the middle of people's lives. There's a lot of scary things that have happened over the last century based on pity and, just devaluing people and then making decisions based on that devaluation. What I want to additionally share with y'all is, and Yazzie, have you wanted to add anything before I get into this big old part? You sure? Okay. Does anybody know anybody biblically in the Bible that was in need of caregiving that sticks out in your mind? Somebody in the Bible that sticks out in your mind that. Well, Is there anybody in the Bible that you could think of that needed caregiving? From God's perspective, absolutely.
The boy who was paralyzed and they opened the roof,
Yeah.
lowered him down to Jesus.
Hmm. And that was a pretty cool thing. I mean, it was, to me, that's a good sign of caregiving in the sense that they did all this. Nobody's names was mentioned, but the focus of that thing is usually the guy being lowered down and healed. But the other guys, the unsung heroes, the 4 guys had torn the roof and lowered the guy down. It was mm-hmm.
Deaf and dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And one with the issue.
Yep.
They took every day that he wanted to be healed.
Yep. Well, let me take this further. When Jesus, Yeshua, was on earth, he could take care of those things in a way that we can't. But can you think of something, and I'll give you a clue, it's in the Old Testament, of somebody who needed long-term care?
Job got in bad shape for a while.
Who?
Job.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You were talking about people, Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, he was in desperate need, and God told him, my grace is sufficient for you.
I love that
Your
verse.
weakest, I'm the strongest.
That's right.
But I was reading something last Wednesday, a week ago. It was from an inspiration. The pastor was using part of it, and I said, let me read that. And it started off about, can we do enough to, when we get through with this day, can we look around and say, Lord, did I do enough for you today? And the answer is always no, because you can't be perfect like God.
No.
But God says, my love for you is totally different than what you're doing and you're trying to be worthy, because I love you. I just love you. You'll always have my love. And while we were not even aware of God, he made that sacrifice where you and me, he's already taken care of everything. Only thing about it, if we don't buy into it, we lose out. It's like you saying, hey, you want to take this computer home with you? And if I don't say yeah, then I don't get the computer. God's already taken care of everything for us. He's already paid the price. That's why he came to earth. He was coming. He knew when he was coming. From the beginning of time, he was here. With the Lord, they created everything. And then he came and he paid for our sins. But if we don't buy into it, we don't get to have this wonderful gift. And you think about when we don't try to have fellowship with him, even if we get to heaven, we're going to find out all the blessings we missed because we spent that day in turmoil or anger or depression or anxiety. And we'll see all those blessings that he had for us. We just didn't buy into what his love was there for us all the time.
Yep. And sometimes it's just as simple as a choice. Not easy, but it sometimes is a choice. Old Testament. No, I got mine right here. Old Testament. Anybody figure it out yet?
Evan would be ashamed of me, but I just don't call.
His name is very hard to pronounce.
Well, that's my excuse then.
All right, I'll tell you. Mephibosheth.
Oh, yeah.
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth.
Just give you a little background. I'm going to read the passage. I think it's very powerful. I love the story. And do y'all remember King Saul? He was the first king of Israel. The people asked God for everybody else has a king. Let's have a king. He said, "Do you really want a king?" Whole another lesson there, but but Saul, and he had a son named Jonathan, and then God wasn't happy with Saul's leadership, and he anointed King David, who was just the shepherd, a shepherd, and made him king. And of course, he was brought to Saul's house, but Saul was always jealous and upset with him. He became best friends with Saul's son, Jonathan. And he would just have a very beautiful, loving friendship. But during the struggles and battles of Saul trying to find King David and kill him, and in all the battles, whatever, and David had many chances to kill Saul. He had many chances to do things, and he says, I'm not going to kill God's anointed. I'm not going to do that. Well, needless to say, Saul was killed. Almost everybody, even Jonathan, was killed in battle, in different battles. That on David's hand. Well, when King David became king, he was distraught that some of his own men killed some of the people. He didn't want that to happen. He was against it. At one point, he asked, is there anybody left in Saul's household? And it was Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth. And when he was very young, they don't know exactly what happened, but he was lame in both feet. He could barely walk. And he found him out and had him brought. Let me read this part. This is where it picks up. And David said, is there anyone left in the house of Saul that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake, his best friend? Now there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba, and they called him to David. And the king said to him, are you Ziba? And he asked, I am your servant. And the king said, is there not still someone of the house of Saul that I may show kindness of God to him? Ziba said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan. He's crippled in his feet. The king said to him, where is he? And Ziba said to the king, he's in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel. I'm sorry if I butchered the names. At Lodebar. Then King David sent and brought him from the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lodebar. And Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, son of Saul, came to David and fell on his face and paid homage, because he was a king. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, behold, I am your servant, he said. And David said to him, do not fear, for I will show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan, and I will restore to you all the land of Saul, your father, and you shall eat at my table always. And he paid homage and said, what is your servant, that you should regard for a dead dog such as I? Now this is Mephibosheth basically saying, pity me, what in the world do you have to do? You really should be killing me. Everybody else is dead. I should be killed. And what did King David say? He said, you have a place at my table, the king's table. And he could obviously see when he was there before him that he had a disability. Did he have pity on his disability? No. He saw him as an equal in the kingdom, but also he had a position of divine recognition in the house of Saul. So he brought him and said that. And then, talking about long-term care, then the king called Ziba, Saul's servant, said to him, all that belonged to Saul and to all his house I have given to your master's grandson, and you and your sons and your servants shall till the land for him and shall bring in the produce, that your master's grandson should have made bread to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, shall always eat at my table. So basically, this other fella was going to take care of what was left of Saul's land, and it belonged to Mephibosheth. But they were going to be the stewards of it and make sure that he had everything taken care of so he could actually be at the king's table. And that's the thing about the kings of old. They weren't able to till the yard, the things themselves. They had to have stewards of people to do all that for them. So he got a seat at the table. And according to all that my lord the king commands is like one of the king's sons. And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all who lived in Ziba's house became Mephibosheth's servants. So Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate always at the king's table. Now he was lame in both his feet.
I said something a while ago, and I talked all the way around it. I cannot witness. What I was saying was, Jesus Christ knew from the beginning of time he was going to come and walk on earth as a human and be crucified and rise again. And that was to pay for the sin debt that was caused back when Adam started. But if we want that freedom, we put our faith in Jesus Christ, and all the blessings come after. But I'm not Methodist, but there's a dismissal, about 4 lines of a prayer in the Methodist Church, and there's one of the lines that I absolutely love. God is saying, go forth in my love. He loves us, whether we love him or not, he loves us. If we accept him, we get all those blessings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm almost done with Mephibosheth. There's one more part. And I'll just sum it up. But basically, King David ran out of Jerusalem by his king Absalom, by his son Absalom, who was trying to take over the kingdom. Mephibosheth actually tried to go to be with him, but it didn't work out, and he was actually fooled. And when this was many years later, King David came back, and well, actually it was before he came back. His servant came and told him, said, "Well, where's Mephibosheth? Where is he?" He says, "He's betrayed you. He didn't want you to come back." It was some little thing like that. When King David actually came back and saw him, he said, "Why did you leave me? Why didn't you come with me?" And he said that I was tricked. And let me read this one part. "For all my father's house were but men doomed to death before my lord the king. But you set your servant among those who eat at your table. What further right have I then to cry to the king?" And the king said to him, "Why speak any more of your affairs? I have decided. You and Ziba shall divide the land." Here's a really cool part. All that equality that King David was showing to him. And Mephibosheth said to the king, "Oh, let him," meaning the guy who was taking care of the land, "let him take it all, since my lord the king has come safely home." He didn't care about the land. He wanted to be with King David at his table because he saw him as a person, not this crippled man, whatever. He saw them as value and as equal, and as a place, as a person deserving of being at the king's table. So the people that you work with, the people that you serve, do they deserve a place at the table? Does my wife deserve a place at the table? And do I owe it to her to make sure that she can get there? I've always said that it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. So we use a lot of different things to make sure we get there. We've had to make major sacrifices to make sure we have a vehicle that we can get to where we're going. And I know it's hard for some, but where there's a will, there's a way. I've seen churches work on things. Some unlikely folks have their own vehicle. It's amazing. As long as you focus on getting there. If you think and have self-pity that I'm not going to get there, or I'm not going to get to that opportunity, as long as this is a desire that you have, and the person you're working with has, and it has to be mutual, there is that place. There is that way to get to the king's table. To me, he's just one of my favorite characters, and I probably didn't do a good job explaining the story, but I love the respect that King David had for Mephibosheth. And I think it's a great example of him not telling him he cannot be part of the kingdom. Yeah, he can be. He can be. He actually has a spot here. So the spots that we hold in our lives and the places that we get to enjoy, shouldn't the people that we serve do as well? And I know you guys probably do an incredible job of making sure that happens. But I do want you to just remember and understand that your care and your giving of care has an effect, negative that it might be, on the person that you're working with. To offset that, to work on that, is seeing that individual as an equal. And when you see that person as an equal, you can have conversations like, I know this is not a great thing. You know you don't want to do this, and I know it makes you look this way, but you know what? I think you're an incredible person, and I think that you should have the opportunity, as long as you want that opportunity. Don't worry about me. I'm here. I'm a shadow. It's not that big a thing. It's my life, and it's your life. We're in it together. So numerous times you see that sometimes I've seen people get into attendant care roles and feeling like I'm just here. I'm just supposed to sit here and just make sure that they're taken care of. Is that seeing that person as a equal? No. This is my job, and this is as much as I'm going to do. Yes, there's not enough pay. It's low pay, or there's no pay at all involved. Sometimes the payoff is not that much. But I can tell you the payoff, even after my back is aching like crazy and I'm hurting, but we made it to the mall to meet her sister, and it took us an enormous amount of you know what to get there. It was worth it, because she is my equal. If I was in her role, I would want to be there. I'd want to engage in the activity of my choosing. It's worth it. Do you put a price on it? You can't. You can't. The salaries that only is allowed because of a government funding source paying for your salary to do what it is that you do. If you think about the money, it's never enough. I can look at my job and the kind of work that I'm doing. Whatever skills I have, I could probably take it elsewhere and make more money if that's what I thought was important. No, it's about empowering people with disabilities to have an equal opportunity at life that I do. And so that's my calling. It's a divine one, I believe, and I think y'all's is as well. Did you have a choice? Not always. I had a little bit of a choice, but I can feel cheated that my choice wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Is life ever exactly what we think it's going to be? Never. Never. But we can have joy in the getting there. We can have a sense of purpose in what we do. And again, going back to my football analogy, when you just got hit really hard, your butt's on the ground and you're aching, hurting, and the next play is about to start, that's kind of what caregiving feels like. Am I going to sit here and just moan and keep moaning and until the next whistle blows and miss the next play altogether? Not good. Sometimes it's just getting over yourself, getting beyond yourself, and getting back in there, getting into the dirty crud that we get into.
Or getting that all together, because if you're not happy, you're never gonna make that person that you support happy.
Yep.
If you're not happy and can't get in, you're no good for the team.
Right. Especially for you pay folks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because you can be doing much more harm than you are, than the good that you think you're getting. There are enough jobs out there. There's a lot less than there used to be. But don't be the person's barrier. You're actually, I sometimes use attendant care as an analogy. It is a ramp. We don't question the ramp. It is there. It is absolutely needed, and it's how we get from A to Z. Attendant care is the same way. Without it, you can't get from A to Z, or A to B. So it's necessary. Does the ramp require fame? No. It's a tool. I'm a tool for independence. Almost thought about changing our organization's name. Tools for Independence. Attendant care is a tool for independence. All of our services are tools for independence. But you want to make sure that you're a functioning tool. Make sure you're taking, not just that you're taking care of and supporting the individual that you're working with, make sure your needs are met too. That is something you really need to negotiate with the person you're working with. But just make sure it's done out of if you allow me to do this, I can help you even more. You know, if it comes to that point where this is just too much, especially for paid caregivers, it may be time to find somebody else to work with, you can mesh with, or really work at it and get down and try to meet those needs. Yes, there's problem behaviors, but that is a sign of a need gone unmet.
Broke you guys up from your caregivers and or family members or whatever is just to kind of give you guys an idea of the different types of models of attendant care. You heard a lot about what Edwin did before lunch, or does before we had lunch. I'm going to kind of go into a little bit of how I manage my attendant care and what kind of paperwork that I use. I brought some, I'll pass out to everybody just to kind of give you an idea. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the traditional model, what I call the traditional model, but self-direct through a traditional model. And then Edwin will finish talking to you guys on, probably go into a little bit more in depth of consumer-directed care. And we're gonna go as far as talking about the hiring, the scheduling, paperwork, all of those types of things. Because the most important thing is that your needs are being taken care of, and that you are managing those people that are coming into your home, and the people that are coordinating your services if you go through an agency, or if it's family members, or if it's your neighbor that comes and helps you. Just because someone is paid doesn't mean that that's an attendant. People that are non-paid, families and family, friends, neighbors, whoever, that's considered providing attendant care to you. And there needs to be a little bit more of not manager type thing, but you scheduling that. Hey, neighbor, can you help me go to the grocery store one day? Or if you're going to go by this place, could you pick me something up? So you're still kind of managing your needs through that. So I've been on the Independent Care Waiver Program 16 years, and I've only been through 2 agencies. The first agency I was with was for a long time, 10 years, and then I've been with this last agency for several years. One of the tricky things about agencies is that I've learned in working with them is that they are very traditional. It sounds like the majority of you that have attendant care have an attendant care agency, right? And they send people out to you, right? Do you have a say-so in that?
I do.
Good. Those are the things Those are the things that you need to make sure and continue with. Traditionally, they would send someone out to a person's home, have no idea what was going on in the home until they got in there. And then it was like, well, you don't know what type of care I need. What do I do? How do we handle that? Then if someone called in sick, the caregiver calls the agency. The agency calls you and says, we don't have anybody to send to you. Those are the types of things that are going on. They do all the hiring. They do all the training. They do all of the paperwork type stuff, traditionally.
Don't mean to interrupt. I know in my case, I have an input in who
Good.
they send
Right.
and who they don't send.
Right.
And like I said, I got 2 with me now, and one been with 6 years.
Uh-huh.
The other one will be with me a year this coming week.
Good. Hang on, Carl. I'll get to you in a second. And that's great, because the traditional old way was that they did it all for you. The way that I learned working with agencies to do it was, it's a traditional model, but it's with self-direction. And it sounds kind of like you guys are in that mode, which is great, because you are saying who comes into your home. You're telling them, okay, I like this person, I don't like this person, I don't want this person.
Unfortunately, it ain't all been great. But,
No.
but I got more good than I have bad.
And that comes with that comes with the territory. We have some really great people that come into our homes that provide the best care that we hate to see go. Then we have people that come in and we're like, okay, we can't wait to see you go. That's right. So, I mean, that's just, and they feel the same way coming into us. They're like, I don't want to go back out to that house again. Or they want to stay there forever. It's just, it really depends on how you connect with the person.
That's what I was saying this morning, that trust is a very big thing.
It really and truly is. It's the most important thing, because you're trusting that person with your life. Yes. Edwin's saying with Octavius has a visual impairment. So that trust for him is much more important, because
before that it was.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, oh definitely. Okay, Carl?
Well, like that and my female seat, I had two girls come in. I had one girl come in, leave for a little bit. She came in at 10. She brought a little bit up. Why did? I let go about with quick. I let go. And let it wait. Then she did it again. And I got set my body, set my cake with. I got my cake with after what time for left. Then she said she put a little bit 4 o'clock. But she leave that time. She left at 2 o'clock. And she got better up. Then she get better. She had bread. She brought back there on spot.
Did everybody understand that? What Carl was saying was, he had an attendant that came in and was supposed to be there till 4 o'clock, but she left at 2 o'clock. And so he took an initiative to call the agency and say, look, she left at 2, not at 4. So there was a repercussion for that attendant. She got in trouble and she got fired. And, but that's good though. That's what you want to do.
It's basically the same thing Carl just said. About a year ago, I had a girl that I was dealing with just on the weekend, and during the week she kind of filled in when needed. She started coming in and telling me different things about what her supervisor was saying and this and that. Really didn't believe it, but I went with it. So at one point she came in and said this. I got kind of curious, so I called a meeting with the supervisor and then her people. And I come to find out, none of the things she was saying was true.
Wow.
So maybe about a couple of days later, I had her put out, because I tried my best not to have anybody to walk in my house that I can't trust.
Yeah.
But I still have some of that, but I also know what they're doing.
And that's good, because the thing that you need to understand with an agency that I've learned is they appreciate the fact that you want to take control of your attendant care. It's less work for them. Right, the more self-direction that you take, the better type of care you're going to get. And so I'm just going to kind of go through, because like I said, with traditional model, they do the hiring, they do the scheduling, and then they're pretty much managing your quote-unquote case. With the traditional model, but using self-direction, which kind of sounds like what we all do in a way, you can hire your own people, you can interview your own people, you can look for your own people and Craigslist and newspapers. You can make your own schedule up. When do you want to get out of bed? Not your attendant's going to be there from 8 to 2 and that's it. If you go in there and if you go in with an agency and you tell them, this is the amount of hours I get and these are the hours that I utilize. I want someone there at 6 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If that is when the attendant care agency should provide you care. Not, I'm sorry, but we can't get anybody in there till 8 o'clock. Well, no, that's not acceptable.
I know with me, I've been dealing with these different programs for the last 15, 16 years. And what I've learned dealing with just doing it for myself, in my opinion, is building a relationship with your
The attendant,
assistant
exactly.
over than your management.
And that's what I'm getting at as far as like the way that I do my attendant care. The only thing the agency that does is really pay the attendants. I'm really doing self-direction. I printed out for y'all, hold that for me, how I actually hire an attendant from the very first day all the way to the training. And I'm going to, I'll pass it out before we leave, but I've also included questions that I ask the attendants and a checklist that I have for shift duties. I don't know if everybody could see it, but it goes day by day. Monday, when you come in, this is what I want you to do. On Tuesday, when you come in, this is what I want you to do. And I get down as far as I have a chart that they have to check off when they've completed the task.
Is that your personal one, or is it us one like that?
It's the one I use, and so I'm gonna let y'all use it too.
So it's basically going to be a guide.
It'll be a guide to tailor it. You tailor it to, like, when I have my attendants come in every day, the first thing I want them to do, I want you to check the dishwasher. Does it need to, are there dishes in the sink? Does it need to be empty? Does it need to be filled? Empty the trash and spray the cans if it needs to be done. Sweep the bathroom. I have 2 cats that use a litter box. And when cat litter gets wet, it's disgusting. So please sweep the bathroom, straighten the couch and the chair. Wipe the countertops. My biggest pet peeve is moving things. If somebody goes through, we're all in a wheelchair, you're eye level to your countertops. I can see every crumb and piece of dust. It drives me up the wall. So I'm so specific that I'm like, please wipe the counters, move the stuff out of the way, wipe behind the counters, wipe behind the appliances.
That's what I was saying. If you get somebody that you can trust and build a relationship with, you don't really have to worry about all this. Because if they mean anything, if you mean anything to them, and if you vice versa, they're going to do what needs to be done.
And but yes and no. You always have to have expectations.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You have to let the attendant know, this is what I would like for you to do when you come in. And not that they aren't going to do it anyway, because 9 times out of 10 they will. But it's always good to set that standard in the beginning to where it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
And they just come in and do it. I'm just going to go give you an overview of the way that I manage my attendant care. Let me get through it, and then we'll have questions afterwards. And you may or may not want to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way. You can pick and choose parts of it that you like or you don't like. It's how you want to manage your attendant care. I do know that the more you're involved, the more you're able to manage it, the less stressful it is for you, but it's very successful.
My case manager said I only am allowed 56 hours a week, and that's 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours at night. But what if those from 11 to 6, that if I get wet, well, we all have catheters and stuff like that, but if I get wet, then I have to sit wet until 6 o'clock. And I mean, my skin is broke down real bad. Val, thank God, Val, she's everything. She's a CNA license. She's a med tech license. I mean, when I was in the hospital for those 9 days, out of the 9 days I was in the hospital, I didn't have but 2 baths, and she gave me both of them.
Wow.
And she laid out all her credentials. But what if they tell you you're not allowed no more hours than what you already got? Your case manager, I'm talking about.
That's the unfortunate thing about the waiver. Is usually once you have your hours set, you get this many hours a week. That's unfortunately all you're going to get. So luckily you've been able to work with your attendants that you currently have to try to figure out something. But this is where like community support would come in. Mm-hmm. People that you may know in the community that could come over to help. Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you on that because you don't have, how do you do that with the hours that you don't have attendant care?
I mean, in my experience, if you build a relationship with the person strong enough, that person may be willing to do things off the clock.
Which she does. They do for her. They definitely do that for her.
I got 2 wonderful attendants, and they can when they're not at a regular job. That they can't get to me at a specific time. Val, she just come at 3 o'clock in the morning and got me up off the floor. I mean, so I can't ask for no better CNAs than I got. Huh?
So like you got all your bases covered.
I didn't understand what.
You got all your bases covered.
Yes. But from like 11:30 to 6 o'clock, I'm by myself.
Edwin's asking, is there a way that, like, say one day you only use 3 of your 4 hours? Would they be able to use that hour at a time in the times that you don't have attendant care?
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good thing. I could ask Miss Margaret on my next visit with her. I was, the majority of the time, they do prepare, me lunch and a snack in the afternoon because I am a diabetic. And all I have to do is just warm my plate up and just go to the table or go to my computer desk and sit there and eat. And I don't have a problem with that. My main problem is getting to the restroom, because I can't stand hardly no more. I don't walk at all. Even in this past year, I've lost 60% strength in my hands. And the doctor told me that I was going to have to get some feeding utility. And I said, well, I got some friends I can call about that can put me in contact where I can get the spoon and fork and stuff like you use and stuff like that, But that's the main problem for me is during those 5 hours I'm by myself, trying to transfer, get my clothes up and down, and get back in the chair without hitting the floor first and then having to call METs. Because Ms. Marva told me if you call METs more than, I think she said 4 times a month, that you would be taken off the program. So that's why I've called Val a lot of times, and I've even called Freedom. And but Frida works in the daytime and comes works for me at night. But she normally works at night, and then she got all day that if I need her, she'll come. But she's working for another girl right now on the morning shift. But that's my main problem right now, because I don't like to be wet all day.
Well, that's what she's saying. If she uses it too much, that they don't.
I didn't know they do that. I thought they did all the time. I didn't know if you use them so much that I didn't know that. Okay.
Okay, so I think one thing that you need to think about is that when you're looking for an attendant, that I don't know how many of you know right away if someone's going to work or not. You know, trying to figure out what their interests are, what your interests are. Are they similar? When you're interviewing, you know, how many of y'all interview the attendants that come out? Okay, Norma, give me an idea of how you do that.
What I do,
Hey, let me let Norma talk.
I sit them down. What my company gets the people together, and then they send out how many I can handle a day, and I handle up to 3 different interviews a day. And I ask them if they have children, and I can't let them bring the children into work with them, because my case manager told me if I did, that they would start taking advantage of that and bring them with them. So, I, see what they can work. If it's okay, if I get an appointment late, like a doctor's appointment, can they stay over if I need them to? And I let the attendant decide for themselves if they can do it, if they can stay over. But I do have to make sure they're gone at 3 o'clock, or if I use my emergency hours are from 8 to 2, and if they come in early, I have to make sure they're going to. That's my responsibility that I have to do.
Okay. Do you get to interview your attendants before they come into your home?
No, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't.
David, do you get to interview?
Yes.
Can you give me an experience of how you do that?
When I first got on the program, at the agency, my mother called the agency and asked if they could come in to interview the attendants before they started, before they began assisting me.
Okay, good.
So,
Do
yeah.
you do that on your own or with your mom?
My mother and I, we both do it.
Okay. And what kind of questions do you ask?
Cause it was 4 years ago, so
So it's been a while.
yeah, I can't remember.
But do you get to schedule your own, make it your schedule?
Yeah, well, I have 9 hours a day, and it's a split shift, so I get 5 hours in the morning and 4 in the evening. So, well, I can rearrange the schedule any way I want to. If I want to do something extra, I can schedule it within my hours I have.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else do their own interviewing?
don't know what you call it interview or not, but I do sit down there. I do sit down and talk to them and try to get to know them. And if I have a one or two questions or more on my mind, I ask them those particular questions. One of my main questions always is, do you smoke? I had one lie to me and said she didn't, but that was another story within itself. But I ain't gonna say what I do at the interview, but I do try to take my time to get to know the person to see will we have a hard time getting on the same page or things like that. And over the last 15 years, I done hit more than I done missed.
Right.
And that's the good Lord working with me. But I don't hit more than I done missed.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to. You're definitely going to.
Well, when I say hit, I don't got more good ones than I have bad ones. So
Yeah, and you will by managing it yourself, sitting down with them, talking with them, letting them know what you want.
Yeah.
You know, when the agency sends somebody out to your house, I can remember being in college before I got the waiver, and I was in the dorm rooms, and people would come into my dorm room to help get me up in the mornings, and had no clue how to do a catheter. Barely knew how to transfer. And I'm sitting there in bed having to get up and get ready and get to school by 8 o'clock. And they don't even know how to get me out of the bed. You know, and you're just sitting there like, really? Why would the agency send somebody out here that didn't know how to provide care for me?
I've also learned that agencies don't really know the person as well as you would think.
No, they don't.
They really don't. Because I know I dealt with one several years ago, and I had the aide there with me at the time because we really weren't that close, but she was good at what she did. And they called her to my house, and they wanted her to go see somebody else, and she was like, well, if I go do this, who's going to help him get back in the bed? And they was like, he actually get out the bed. They actually thought that 8 hours a day I stayed in the bed.
And, you know, that's just...
So, and they did not know they provide food for me and none of that. They didn't know they did none of that. So agencies, when they get your business, they don't really know what's going on.
They really don't.
They
And I mean, you know, it's not... They have to provide a service. It's their job. You know, there's so many different things to factor in. Does it make it right that they don't know their clients?
Kind of do and they kind of don't.
Exactly.
Because to them, the bottom line is getting that signed on paper to get the money that they're going to get.
Well, can I ask a question in terms of care? If, say, you said that some of them didn't know a lot about how to help, what would you do when you did have to be in class at a certain time?
I would call the agency, and I would say my piece about sending somebody into my house. They didn't know how to take care of me. And I would have to walk that person through how to take care of me. I would have to tell them how to cash me. I would explain every detailed move of how they need to take care of me. It was very uncomfortable for both parties. I mean, you know, it's not the lady's fault, you know, but you just have to kind of suck it up and get out of the bed or lay there and be miserable.
Because you're going to have something to come in and don't tell them how to do their job. But
you know, a lot of times a lot of times I think it's just the fact of they're just as shocked as you are. They're like, nobody told me what I was coming into.
But just like I told one of the girls told me years ago, I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm telling you how to deal with me.
Right. And that's, you keep telling them now they have a problem with that, well then they know where the door is.
And so she didn't do nothing I asked her to do. So I got her to go out and get me something to eat. And when she brought me something to eat back, I told her she could leave. So on Monday morning, I called the supervisor. If she come back, she will not touch me.
Right.
So they did send her back, but she did not touch me. Only thing she did was emptied my urinals, and gave me some water. I did not let her touch me, and I did not let her give me food.
I don't
Because
blame
if I don't trust you,
That's right.
I don't want you nowhere near my food
Yep.
at all. So you're going to have good people and bad people.
Oh, yeah.
But it all depends on how you deal with both. I can be nice and nasty at the same time.
Mhm. Okay, so let me get through this and then we'll talk a little bit more. What I start out with is an ad in the paper. And then I, clearly state what I want, what hours. I usually do a salary base on either experience or, something I've negotiated with the agency of what will you pay an individual coming in. When the calls start coming in, I kind of conduct a phone interview. I know right away if the first words out of their mouth is what's the pay, I just hang the phone up. Just hang it up. I understand that's a very important part of the job. But that's not the first question you ask. At least say, what is the responsibility of this job? Or how are you? Or what's going on? At least act like you care about what you're going to be doing. So once the phone interview is done and I like the person, I'll set up a face-to-face interview. And since I work at DC, I usually do my interviews here instead of in my home. And then I go over everything. I have a list of questions that I ask them. Do you have any certifications? Do you have any experience? What type of disabilities have you worked with? Bathing, grooming, dressing experience. Do they have to have all of these things? No, but it's always good to know if they've been through some kind of something. Like Edwin said earlier, sometimes your best people are going to have no experience whatsoever.
I know based on what you were saying about the interview, one thing I don't learn to help me, most of the women that are in my family come in this line of work.
Yes.
So I kind of know, well, now that I'm older, I know what to expect, but I also know being in that field and them being in that field, because every woman in my family seems like they don't work in this field.
Right.
So I know what to look for.
Right.
Even they don't like dealing with me. So I know kind of what to look for, and that have helped me over the last 15, 16 years, whatever it been. But that do help. It helps when you know what to look for and what to expect.
Yep. And then once the initial face-to-face interview, hang on, Carl, I'll get to you in a second. Once that interview is done and I still am impressed, I set up an observation. And I have them come in and see all my care. Every last detail to the way that I go to the bathroom, get in the shower, get dressed, transfer, all of it. And then sit down, talk with them, and I'm like, is this something you can do? Is it something you can't? As I said earlier, I always tell them I don't take offense. I'd rather know now. I don't want to get you in here and then you don't like it. So they don't get paid for that first interview. Observation. If they're interested and I'm still interested, then I set up 2 days of training. And usually either my mom will come down and train or whoever is working my day shift will train. And then,
have you ever had one come in and pretend to be something, and then once they get in there, they ain't really what they pretend to be?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I've dealt with that too.
So, once you get them in and they've trained, can you hold that for a second?
But the good thing is she actually was mine. She like, well, that was just to get my foot in the door. Okay, well, you can turn around and leave now.
Like I said, once they get in there, you want to come up with the duties. And I don't know if everybody can see this, but all I've basically done is the shift duties that I read out earlier of what I expect each day, what they need to come in and do, so that, you know what, I can train you on it 1 or 2 times, but then afterwards, I don't want to have to constantly say to somebody, can you do this? Will you go do this? By the way, hey, can you get this done? They don't want to be micromanaged. You know, they want to know what is expected, and by reading this, they know. Then what I have them do is, once these things are done, I have a checklist that they check it off. And then I can go back later to see if it's gotten done or not. And if it hasn't, then I can go to them and say, hey, when you get a second, do you mind going over that? Oh, yeah.
Have you ever had somebody check it off and it won't done?
And it wasn't done? No, not really.
Okay.
But, I mean, have I had somebody just not do it? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
they just bypass it like, I don't feel like doing it today,
Oh, okay.
kind of thing. You know, but it's not that I'm sitting there checking behind somebody.
At your house or something?
But what I want people to understand is that, you know, your attendants that come in, they're not these, you're not a slave driver. You're not telling them, do this, do this, do this. They're there to perform a job for you, to help you and assist you with things you cannot do. You have to be respectful of them. You have to respect that they are people. They may have a bad day. Things may be going on in their lives, and you have to be receptive to that. You may have to change the way you do something the day they come in upset. Don't worry about it. You know, don't worry about doing laundry. I see you're upset. We can start doing that tomorrow. You just have to, just as the attendant needs to be that way with you, you know, you guys have to build that relationship where you know that sometimes the laundry can wait. It doesn't have to be done. It can, or that you know you've got to go to the restroom. You know you got to eat. You know that you got to get in bed. You know, there's things that really, really have to be done. But if your attendant's having a bad day, sometimes it's good to just be like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? Is there anything that needs to be done or that I can do? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to whip through the stuff anyway, even if they're having a bad day, because it's getting their mind off of whatever's going on. But you just have to be receptive to what's going on. And I've made copies of all of this for you guys to look at and take with you. But that's kind of how I've set it up. Does it always work? No, I think we've all been receiving attendant care long enough to know that you are going to have good people in your lives, and you're going to have people in your lives that you're like,
You don't want to see no more.
oh my goodness. We all know that. It's just what happens.
And I got some I don't want to see again.
But we always want to be respectful of people. And you want, you know, to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. If you want to be known as, oh gosh, don't go to that person's house. Be a tyrant. You know, you won't get people in your house to take care of you. You just won't. If you are kind to people and you respect them and let them know, I expect this of you, I want this done, they're going to in turn respect you and give you quality care as well. Edwin, I know he kind of told a story earlier, but I think he could go, you know, if a little more detail of anything you want to go into that to talk to him about. But I'm sorry, Carl. I don't want to cut you off again. I know I did. Go ahead.
Well, I want to know with people.
Huh?
Yeah, and with people that come in, if they come and think you don't have that day, they got to come in and I thought interview somebody, one came and think they came with dirty clothes on. They come with dirty clothes for interview.
Yeah.
And I told them, they got, when I call interview again, you can't come in because you got to be clean, but you
Well,
come
yeah.
in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want somebody in your house that
ain't gonna leave no evidence behind.
exactly you do. I mean, I've just always lived by the golden rule, I guess. But
I look at it now. When they come in, when they come in, I see they clean, they're not clean. I will not hire them.
Edwin can probably vouch for this.
She was very she started working with her clothes started so it didn't work out with her. But that was just one of the very few
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you get things locked up, you're going to deal with situations like that, like girls talking about.
And you will get to a point where, I mean, like I said, I already know when I hear them on the phone. I know if I do a face-to-face, I know right away when they walk in. You will get to know if this person's going to work for you or not. You just will. There will be times that you will take someone in that you're just not real sure of because it's kind of a last, okay, I've got to have somebody. And in the situation where I've done that, I've done it twice. I was like, oh God, this is not my first choice, but it will have to do in a pinch. And she was with me for 9 years. And she was one of the best attendants I ever had. And she would have never left had she not hurt her knee. Or, her knee went out on her. She was older. But you can't always, not that I want anybody in my house dirty either, but I'm just saying you've got to be open-minded when it comes to hiring attendants. But you learn that. I mean, now, James, I know we helped you do some interviewing. Huh?
They know how to wear gloves.
Wear gloves. That's right. But you like to interview your people too first, right?
Yeah. I ain't gonna have nobody that don't know what to do.
With your mom helps you, right?
Yeah, I have to have somebody with me all the time.
Right.
Because what the doctor said, I can't be put to sleep, nothing.
Right.
I can tell when I have to go or whatever I have to do. I can tell that. But I finally had somebody out of 3 agencies that know what to do. I've worked with them, and they went do what they're supposed to do, and I had 3 agencies. And finally I figured out somebody.
Right. And I mean, it takes a couple of days sometimes. And I know, I mean, Thomas, in your situation, do you guys get to interview your people? You and your mom? Not really. Would you like to be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is there anything that you guys, I don't want to turn this into, let's complain about every person in our house. Let's complain about all the agencies. We want to be positive, We want to, what are some of the good things that you like about having attendant care? Let's talk about the positive things that we enjoy.
I like my care. I like deer. My bedtime cat is deer, and I really like them.
Carl, I know you like having an attendant. I do know that. I do.
I know my attendant
Where we at? Good.
I like to come and clean up.
I think that's great because you've needed it. Anybody else?
I'll tell you a little bit of thing that I like, Mister. I used to go if I wanted something bad enough, and if it wasn't on sale, I would get the real deal, and I will, like, if I want a T-bone, I'll go pick up a T-bone. Then he came out paying $8 a pound for it. I just wanted it. But with Frida, I go with her, and she helps me pick out the bargains that I really can't tell the difference from, Well, I can with my meats and stuff, but she knows what kind of stuff I like. Then she comes back and she fixes up enough meals from Thursday to Thursday. And all I have to go in I know you heard me say that, all I have to do is go in my refrigerator and get them. But the great part about it is I could send her by herself. I go with her sometimes just to get out of the house, and be active outside of the house, because staying in is what I was doing before I met Mark and you all. But Frida knows me so good. She knows what I like, and when she's come back, I look in the refrigerator and I say, golly, you must have bought enough food to last for a couple of months. She says, and I only spent $60.
I would much
rather
rather send my attendant, because if I go to the grocery store, I will spend $100. If I send my attendant to the grocery store, I will spend about $50. It's very true, because I want to spend.
Okay.
Octavius, would you like to say what you're happy about? I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm out somewhere else. No.
I didn't mean to scare you.
No, okay, cause for one, I wouldn't know where to start. So,
You don't know what you're happy about.
Huh? Oh, I know.
I know, that's right. You can tell us a couple of things.
Do I have to?
You don't have to.
No.
David will do it then, and we'll come back to you. We're going to come back to you.
Okay.
Well, I have you
I will not.
when, before I received attendant care, my parents took care of me.
Your mom took care of you?
My mom and daddy.
His mom and dad.
And so when I received attendant care, I was happy because my mom and dad could enjoy themselves.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. That's so sweet.
Yeah. And so it's good to have attendants
Yeah.
in the home. Yeah.
That is so sweet. But it's true. I mean, it does allow your family to be your family again.
Yeah.
Instead of it's always good to have your family there as a support system and a backup, because that's what they love us for.
Yeah.
But it also it's very hard on them to, they do it because they love us.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have it any other way. But that's very sweet of you.
Yeah.
I would have to probably say, I don't know, the best thing about being on the waiver for me was just the independence of being able to manage a schedule the way I wanted it managed. Being able to go when I wanted to go, do what I want to do, in the terms that I wanted to do it in. I think that's what I enjoyed about it. Edwin?
I love white packages. One of the best things that's ever happened to me. I think so much more because my caregivers comes at the task and the services. I mean, well, I've got great workers. I love it. When I can do what I can do, at least promoted. And they won't always do for me.
Yep.
Well, I want to do everything as well, because if you get to work, you just want to do for you. And there are things that you can do for yourself, but you don't make the things you do to home. That's what they're going to expect. That's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I love what they
And your attendant that you brought out there to my house, because you to buy,
and taught me how to band my door up. I want you to send her to me. You don't need her.
Who was that?
Tell
Keep it in. All right, Miss Norma, your turn.
I just enjoy the respect we give each other and the laugh. Well, Diane's had the same attendant that I'm fixing to mention. Since Tasha left, before Tasha left, we had one disagreement, and I finally sat her down in my room and I said, "This is how it needs to go." And she respected me for that because she understood my situation. I understood her situation.
Right.
So, therefore, that's the reason I like attendants when they come in and if I first notice they're going to respect me, of course I'm going to respect them back. But if sometimes it may take me, I have to hire them, and it may take me a while to see if they're going to do their job. No, not all the time. If I go in the room to lay down, they're going to stop doing their job. I've had too many attendants like that.
Right. And Ms. Peoples, I know you don't have a waiver, but what do you love about living by yourself? Huh?
I love everything, privacy and everything.
You love everything?
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.